Local legend or local hero? Is that what you call
it? I've been calling him local celebrity. Anytime celebrity. I've been telling people about you being on, I'm like, oh, we're gonna have a local celebrity, Larry Dixon.
In my heart of hearts, right? So I come up, I go to West Point. I'm an econ major, right? So like, I am a super pumped up, huge capitalist, right? Love capitalism. I love it, right?
Was Michelle Obama talking about how we don't need someone who puts kids in cages?
Yeah.
You mean the policy that started during your husband's administration?
Coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why SALT need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan. Cause that's what's that? Oh, let's get ready.
And just like a red, white, and blue phoenix rising from the ashes of political bipartisanship, we are back to Salt of the Streets podcast.
This is Saturday, August 22nd, 1:14 p.m., episode 92.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Salt of the Streets podcast, your one and only source for social and political commentary on all the weekly news, pop culture, and sports that you can handle. And the best part about the whole deal is that it's all built from the ground up for people like you and me, the everyday normal person. So come down and join us as we discuss life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and continue our endless efforts to bridge the gap between people and information. As always, we are your hosts. I'm Colin.
I'm Donovan.
And today we are joined by the man, the legend himself, Larry Dixon. Local legend or local hero? Is that what you call it?
I've been calling him local celebrity. Anytime I've been telling people about you being on, I'm like, oh, we're going to have a local celebrity, Larry Dixon.
There it is. There it is. It rolls off the tongue real nice. But we're going to be talking about, actually, Larry, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to be talking about the latest and greatest of the executive orders that were being signed last time we were recording. So we obviously didn't get to do kind of a session on those. And you've done an extensive breakdown on all these different executive orders. We're going to be talking about a little bit. We're getting to know you a little bit more. I think you were at West Point at the same time I was at West Point doing some other things. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. We'll talk about football. We're going to talk about what we think like a phase 4 stimulus package might look like. And then this really interesting concept about these learning and school pods that sound really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to get into all that. And as per the usual, so much more. So yeah, we'll just take it from there.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll start here. So, Larry, you're obviously from our area, but you don't live here anymore. A lot of people watching this are going to recognize you. Some people are going to know what you look like. Some people are just going to know what your name is. So we'll get into like your personal history. I'm still getting used to wearing headphones again. So we'll get into that a little bit. But I've obviously known who you were for a while just because you went to the same high school that I did, played football. So I went to your games and stuff when you were playing. And some people, your name comes up randomly. I don't know if you know that. People are like, oh, I wonder what Larry Dixon is doing. Like, it's just, like I said, local celebrity is not an unrealistic description for you. Partially because you've done some amazing things, partially because our town is so fucking small that if you're famous for anything, you're going to be super famous until someone else comes along. And I don't think we've had anyone else since
Bremerton,
you.
I guess,
exactly. Right? Yeah. I don't think we've had anybody else really famous come out since you. So,
I mean, I'm on here every week, Don. Don't diminish me that way.
That's right. Sorry. Yeah. But I came to kind of re-notice you I think it was when you started doing the breakdowns of these bills, right? Because did you just start doing the breakdowns when all the stimulus stuff happened, or had you been doing them for a while?
So the stimulus, that was the first time I went to Facebook. I got into accounting and taxes, so that's pretty much what I do in my spare time. And so I've been helping people kind of sift through, grow up as their tax situation becomes more complicated. And then when that first stimulus package came out, I wasn't really paying attention because I don't spend a ton of time paying attention to politics. But once that came down, I started getting, I won't say inundated, but I got asked a ton of questions. Everybody's like, well, what does this mean? How does this affect me? Is this taxable? And then I just saw even worse stuff than that. I saw just wrong information being put out, and I just saw
Yeah.
memes that were just wrong. And I was like, okay, well, we need to sift through this. And then I was like, I'm just gonna go to Facebook. I'm gonna help out my friends, and hopefully, like, people will get a little bit of value from it.
Yeah, and so you and I were not friends on Facebook at the time, but a mutual friend that we had, was sharing those posts you were doing. And so I saw that, and it was like you were kind of talking about a comprehensive breakdown of the stimulus package, what you should expect, what the checks are going to look like, what it means for you in the future, what maybe you should be doing with them, what you can maybe expect in the future from another phase. And then after that, you were taking questions for several days afterwards in the comments, which I thought was great. Not that you were just leaving it like, here you go, figure it the fuck out past this point. Not that they couldn't because it was so comprehensive, but that you were actually taking follow-up questions afterwards to help people truly understand something you'd already broken down. And that obviously fits very closely into what we're doing here, you know? And so the first one that I saw, I added you as a friend because I wanted to keep seeing it. I wanted to keep seeing what you were doing because, first of all, I thought it was a great resource for myself, but I also just loved seeing it, loved seeing other people understand what was happening and trying to help even more people understand. So that's kind of our whole goal of what we're doing here, you know, is trying to take politics and make it easy for everybody to consume, you know?
Make it digestible for the average,
Yeah.
the everyday normal person, as you know, we don't bullshit when we have that in the beginning. That's really what we do. Is it's for your coworkers at work that you sit there and you have, you know, people have, especially these days in 2020, political discussions going to come up in some fashion.
Yeah.
And you should be able to have an intelligent conversation with your coworkers or your friends. And if they're saying some really fucked up shit that's off the wall and totally not true, you should be able to be coming to sources like us or, you know, whatever it is, and being able to strip away some of the bullshit out of that and then just actually talk about what's really happening. Because it's so, for lack of a better term, you know, the fake news is so pervasive. And when the vast majority of people that are on these social medias are getting their news, if you will, their political facts from memes, that's a problem. It's a big problem now. Huge
and
problem.
There's just so much of it. Like, there's just like, you guys seem like, as you guys start following more, like, there's so much going on. Like, you look at America, we have the shutdowns or the coronavirus. Then you pop in, you have like the tax bills, and then you have just what's going on. You have the George Floyd incident, and then you have the Black Lives Matter, and then like you're like, okay, I'm overwhelmed, and then you're like, well, that's just America. We haven't even gotten to China, Russia, like the actual global. So like, whenever I see someone distill something down in a meme, I'm just like, there's people that spend years studying this stuff that put out papers. I'm just like, that's just not how we got to get through this.
Yeah.
Well, and the stimulus bill, like you said, because it was such a huge piece of legislation, it was so hard for people to consume, and there was immediately misinformation put out for 100%. Any number of reasons, whether it was because someone didn't actually understand and they were just saying something, or they were trying to attack the president, trying to attack the Democratic Party, trying to attack the Republican Party. So everybody's finding something that they don't like, you know, and attacking it. And that the checks were so big. Like, I even just dealt with it last night at the cabin with my mom's house. There was somebody there, one of her friends, that, you know, we were talking about what we're going to talk about on the show today. And they were like, oh, what about these checks? Like, I've heard, you know, they're going to cost people like up to like $18,000. And I was like, hold on. Right? I was like, so think about it. And I was like, even just at its base, right? Like, these checks stemmed from a multi-trillion-dollar stimulus package. Like, that is where the money came from, is the money that we added to the deficit. Like, so there are literally people who aren't paying taxes, that don't file their taxes, that got checks. How are you going to pay back money on your taxes if you don't file taxes? Like, it logically makes no sense, you know, but people, for, like I said, for any number of reasons, are so instantly willing to accept something that makes them upset, you know, that they think makes somebody else look shitty, does something, does whatever.
Is that outrage culture, you think? Or that might be slightly
I don't know
different.
what to attribute that to.
I just think I think we love misery. I think we love company, and misery loves company. I think we like attention. And whenever you say, like, whenever you're screaming, like, this is the worst, like, people are going to be like, oh, man, like, that makes me feel bad. And then you, like, congregate about what's bad. Like, I think that, again, that was tough. Like, the big misnomer with the checks was, so, well, this is taxable. And I was just like, just outright, like, whether or not you agree, like, politically that we should have got them, like, that's just a wrong bit of information that, like, if you're operating on it, like, you can't have a right conclusion.
Yeah.
So Larry, since you do have the background you do, just kind of for everybody that might be listening, can you talk about the taxable situation that we're talking about here with the federal stimulus checks? You know, are those
absolutely
taxable? What does that mean? What does that mean for the average Joe?
So, like, the stimulus as we saw it, right? The $1,200 per adult, $500 per kid. That's going to come to you as a tax credit. So the tax credit is the government giving you money. So whenever you go on to do your tax at the end of the year, the government is going to give you that money essentially at the end of the year in the same way that you would get it for your child. Like, you hear a lot with the kid tax where you get $2,000 per kid. It's the same exact concept. So in the same way that your kids don't, like, that $2,000 isn't taxed, this isn't taxed, right? But instead of getting it at the end of the year, they gave us an advance on it, right? So they gave it to us early. So the best way to say it is not even a stimulus check, is that it's an advance on a credit, right? And that's not the same as unemployment, which that will be taxed, right? Because that is, they're giving you a wage, right? And they tax.
Yeah.
So that's the big differentiator. If you're like, well, then is my unemployment? Like, no, your $600 a week is going to be taxable. Like, I hope you withheld on that.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to put it, because I have a child, right? So the last time I filed taxes, I got that extra $2,000.
Yeah.
I don't have to pay that back. I can tell you, I got to keep it, you know? So I think that's a really good way to put it. There are a lot of people I saw, like, the same deal as you. When that first happened, I saw so many people that were talking about, oh, I'm going to save this money. If I have to pay it back, I don't want it. Like, all this stuff, you know, that I'm like, that's not even true. You know, people who had multiple kids. And so they're getting big checks, you know, married couples with 3-4 kids, they're getting checks of several $1,000s, you know? So they're like, do I keep this $5,000? Do I, like, what am I supposed to do with this? You know? And then other people in the comments of their questions just straight lying, you know, whether or not they knew they were lying, but saying things that were not true. And it made me so happy to see a regular person that doesn't, like you, that's not doing a podcast, not trying to, I mean, other than like doing taxes, you know, you're not making money off of trying to provide information. You just want people to understand the reality of what's happening, you know?
Yeah. And like, that's like, we make taxes out to be so confusing, right? Like, I mean, at least in my family, like, I always thought taxes were confusing, and it sounds aggressive. And if you ever read the actual tax code that, like, no normal person reads, like, not even accountants do, right? Like, reading the tax code is absurd, but like, it seems so complicated, but it's a very simple thing. So like, I always hate when I had a question and no one was there to answer it. So I try to just answer these questions and like give back the little bit of knowledge I have. Like, obviously it's very specific. So it's not going to stretch, but like, to be at least like bounce off to say, hey, I don't know. Or like, cause like, we've all seen information and then you're like, well, my situation is super specific. Like, this can't apply. So I've always hated that situation where that person just feels alone, or the other worst thing, they have to go pay hundreds of dollars to get someone else's time. You know what I mean? Which is fine for me as a capitalist, but like, as a person who want to help people, like, I want to bridge that gap.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. No, exactly. One more note on the checks. I think another thing that scared a lot of people is that they came into your bank account from the IRS, you know, and rarely do people have a positive experience with the IRS. You know, usually it's a negative thing. Usually you're like, shit, I have to pay money this year. I'm not going to get anything back, like stuff like that. So when it came, and I don't remember exactly what it said, like in my bank account when I got it. But if I had not been doing research on the checks, I could easily interpret that as like, I'm going to have to pay this back. Like, just however it was labeled, I cannot even remember. I can't remember what it was called, but the way that it was even labeled in my bank account was like, that doesn't look good. Publicly, optically, it doesn't look good.
Right.
And it's like, it was easy if you got the $1,200 or the $2,400, but there was people that got like $712 or $10 because, like, you know, they got pared down off of that prorated thing. So like, it's even weirder for them when you show up like, I have $765 from. And you're just like, like, no, that's you. You're good. You did your part. So.
And I didn't even consider, because obviously I'm in the $1,200 range. I didn't even consider getting less than that.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
all of these articles are going to be about $1,200. So if you get less than that, you're like, what the fuck is this?
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
man.
Yeah, I did not consider that.
And if you're running a direct deposit situation too, like it's one thing where you get a check in the mail and it says U.S. Department of the Treasury,
Yeah.
IRS, something like that. But then you get some weird code in your bank account as a deposit from like IRS, bunch of numbers probably, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
It's enough to go, what is this?
Yeah.
I'm worried.
And even in the
Especially if
tax
it's not
return
that
situation,
round.
they tell you, they're like, hey, in 2 weeks, you're going to get this money. And then in 1 week, you're going to get this money. And then they're just like, hey, you're going to get it Friday. Like for us, we're like, we're okay. We're going to get Friday. Our bank told us. And then on Wednesday, we got it. And I was just like, even like I knew and I was uneasy. I was just like, okay. Cause like I would hate for them to like work the kinks out with me. But no, that's not the money for you. We have to pull that. So like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
this is a stressful situation. That's why like for me, like I was disheartened like through the process. Like that whole, you can ask my friends, I've ranted about this continuously. It's very disheartened through the process. And then for people to like, when everyone's hurting, to let the rage kind of consume them, and then just like, they're just screaming, right? Like nothing's getting done. Like some people just don't want to know, like just want to know, and just, they don't want to do anything wrong. And then people are just screaming at them. And I'm just like, okay, like, come on, dude. Like this, like everyone's struggling. Like coronavirus hit like all of us, like disproportionately some, obviously, but like it, again, I was angry with Congress. I'm very disappointed in our Congress. And then I was very upset with how we kind of handled that situation.
Oh,
What
yeah.
will you expand on that a little bit? You said you were disheartened by the process. What do you mean by that?
So like, okay, so in my heart of hearts, right? So I come up, I go to West Point. I'm an econ major, right? So like, I am a super pumped up, huge capitalist, right? Love capitalism. I love it, right? So like,
It's pretty sweet.
It's amazing, right? Like I think it's some great things. I have
A1.
fights with my friends sometimes, but what I realized through this process is that we're a socialist country, but just for rich people, right? So like when I see them cut out like a $82 billion for the American people, but then cut out $565 billion for these corporations that might fail, but they're too big, that frustrates me, right? And so like that, because I'm a capitalist, I'm just like, listen, I don't want to be socialist for anyone, but I definitely don't want to be socialist for rich people. Like that definitely is never going to make me feel good. So like I was disheartened in that process where like they kind of did that under, like no one talked about it for 2 months because not many people read the $1,800 bill. So like they gave you a piece of candy and then like they just took from you. And so I was upset with Congress with how that, like how it came out, right? And from like reading about it, it was like, I guess the Republican side that pushed for that, and that's fine. But at the same time, we've seen Democrats, when they don't get what they want now with this voting bill, like they've been stopped, they've halted everything, right? And you can say that's right or wrong, but we've seen whenever they don't like something, they stop it. And like none of them were out there doing that. And then also, again, I've seen West Point has afforded me the opportunity to be around a lot of great leaders, right? Like dudes that you just see them just like, yo, like, let me just hitch my wagon to you. Like, they're like, hey, we're going to go have to pick up trash on a Saturday. But honestly, I'm going to be the first one there helping pick up trash.
I'll go.
Like,
I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, right? There's great people. So like when
That little
there's like
town
a
needs
mass
it, too.
hurt and none of the politicians like took their money that we give them as citizens like and gave it back. Like it doesn't have to be to anything. But I'm like, hey, you're making $200,000 a year. Like I don't care. Like give it back to somebody. Like it's so easy. Like the SNAP. Like if like how amazing would it be if Congress came out, right? Both sides said, hey, guys, we're gonna go from 100 or 200 or 174,000. We're gonna kick it down to 60K. We're gonna make it work throughout the entirety of this like this pandemic that we're in. And we're gonna band together. Like I don't want to hurt, but like again, what did we get? We didn't get that. And then like I don't want to disproportionately put on one side, right? But Nancy Pelosi in front of the fridge that cost $10,000 talking about how her overflow of ice cream, like that doesn't make me feel good. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's not what you want to see. So that whole
Irrationally
process, like,
angry.
yeah, exactly. I was just like you're either you either don't care or you're like tone deaf in either way. So like I was very frustrated when I saw the bill that even when it hurt, like they kind of helped us, but then they helped their friends, the rich people, right? And then be like, I don't like how Congress can put out, like, for example, the new one that's out, the HEROES Act, that's over 2,000 pages. I believe it's like 2020. And I read all that. I was just like, why do we have these thick bills, right? Like, if we're gonna, like, if you read the HEROES Act and gave it to someone, you maybe argue with them on maybe 1/3 of the bill, but that 1/3 of the bill is what's stopping us from getting more money into the hands of the people that need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, when politicians can't stop politicking, even in like these terrible times, I get frustrated. Like, I'm disheartened. I mean, I try not to speak negatively of people, but I don't think they're living up to their position.
100%.
No argument on this side of the table.
As far as your first point for the money being given to the corporations, I think you're right. The $1,200, whatever people got, they were so infatuated with it that they were completely lost by the money that was given to the corporations. And one of the things that we talked about a lot was how much money was given to just like travel companies, airline companies, and things like that. Boeing, right?
Yep.
Boeing is a local company. They're in our area. And for the last 2 years, probably, they've been dealing with this accidents with the shitty planes that they made that are crashing, right? So when that's happening, and then Corona happens and like, oh, we don't know what to do. We're going to have to lay off all these people. And my company, the one that I work for a company called Bennick. And so we make neoprene orthotics. We make all this stuff, right? And we have a contract with Bennick to make, or with Boeing, to make Boeing booties. We make little slip-on single-use boots that they use to walk on the inside of the engines and like on the planes of the wings and stuff, so they don't conduct electricity, and they're anti-slip. And so we even have contracts with Boeing. So we benefit directly from them continuing to exist. But as an individual and as a taxpayer, I don't really see it as my fault that you made a shitty plane and pushed it through anyway because you wanted to make money, and now you don't have money to sustain yourself through a pandemic. That's not my fault. And you shouldn't be getting billions of dollars because of that, while we live with $1,200, $2,900, $2,400, whatever, right? Until maybe another stimulus package is passed.
So let's spend a little time on this. I want to flesh this out a little bit because there is a lot of layers to that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
The
2,200 layers or whatever it is.
Exactly.
2020.
Right. So that's one aspect of it, is that fat omnibus bill situation, which I remember not too long ago, I want to say maybe a year ago, President Trump swore on the Oval Office that he would never sign another omnibus bill.
No more.
Enter pandemic, and that just goes out the window. But let's go back to the financial crash of 08, 09, right? And then we bailed out, I'm going to generalize it because it's very big, but we'll just say we bailed out the banks because they were too big to fail, right? Now, there is some real world consequences of that. If the vast majority of the financial sector just drops off the face of the planet tomorrow and everybody goes broke, not only does the USA not have an economy, but the rest of the world, whose most of their economies are intertwined with us, everybody dies at that point. Everybody dies. It's all over. There's no more countries, total anarchy. There's zero economic system anymore. You can almost understand the bailout at that point, right? But at this point, now we're talking about manufacturing companies, travel companies,
private
companies. But again, Boeing, just using Boeing as an example, how many employees does Boeing have?
Oh, a lot.
Right. Yeah. And so is this one of those situations where is it best for the overall health of the economy to say, this is a fatal wound, we have to let it go out? Every one of these people needs to lose their job, and that company needs to go under because someone else eventually will rise up to take their place. Those people will go through hard times and they'll eventually find another job or something, but it's the natural cycle of things economically.
And I guess my question to that would be, what's the difference between Boeing and millions of small businesses that provide, I guess I couldn't compare the amount of capital that gets put in because I don't know, but I mean, would I rather have Boeing, or would I rather have a million people whose their whole well-being and life is based around a company that they're going to lose because the money went to the wrong place? I don't know. Exactly, and Boeing laid off several thousand employees anyway. They got all this money so they could try and save everything, and they laid off a bunch of people anyway. So, Larry?
And I agree with Colin. Like, honestly, that's a great point, right? So, like, that is always the scapegoat they hide behind, right? These are infrastructure companies, And without those infrastructure companies, we're going to collapse. And I completely understand. But at the same time, I've always wondered, why is there no mandate on the money spent, right? And I'm not trying to dig into their financials. I can't run their business. But for example, let's wait till the end of the year. In September, I believe it's American Airlines. One of the airlines companies is going to cut out like 30,000 employees. It's either 30 or 70,000 employees. Why are we going to let these people collect bonuses at the end of the year?
Right.
So, for example, if you just said, hey, like, you're right, you need this help, here's the $5 billion check, but for the next 5 to 10 years, you can't make, as a person, more than $60,000 a year or tied to inflation.
Right.
And we just put no pressures on those people to kind of spend it or be great people, right? Because, like, again, if we're going to say the social safety net is there for you, then, like, we have to have a forcing function to make them give back to us. Because, like, what I don't want to see is that those companies get $5 billion and then fire employees and then write fat checks and said, hey, guys, we did it. We have a great business. And, like, that's where I start to get uncomfortable. But, like, I get it. Because in 2008, when they're like, banks are too big to fail, like, that was the first time I was like, I don't know if this feels good. But, like, economically, like you stated, like, a lot more than America's going to go down if our banking system goes down. So
kind of like we're almost in too deep, essentially, in some of these institutions that we can't, in good conscience, walk away from them and let them fail. Although, I can't help but stick to kind of like my roots on that one, saying, well, no, we need to deal. We fucked it up. Somebody fucked it up. We as a society screwed it up. We need to pay the consequences, and it's going to hurt real bad. But I mean, on paper, I could see, say, like, just with Boeing again, let's say we give them $500 billion, right, to float their business, keep their employees and paid, so on and so forth. Could you not just give that $500 billion to every one of the employees, and then whoever wants to stay there stays there? And then if the company fails, and everybody's got money or something, or put it into a social safety net within the state or something, so that those people can still get access to that money. But then the company that is failing for very specific reasons fails. Yeah. And then we just move on.
And I think I think those are both great points.
I'm just playing with ideas.
No, certainly. Well, and to Larry's point, when the first stimulus package was being passed, I remember vividly it being a huge sticking point that the Republicans were not willing to put something in the bill that mandated the way the money was spent.
Yeah.
They were not willing to put something in there. And I didn't understand that, and the only stipulation for the PPP program was just to maintain 90% of your payroll through September, whatever the fuck. It's like it's an arbitrary point of time, like through the end of the year or something, So what I can take, I think it was twice the amount of money that they needed for payroll that they could get in a loan that would turn into a grant, so long as they maintained at least 90% payroll. So that's it. That's all that you have to do. And so you can just pay them, save as much money as as you can until that happens. Lay off all those motherfuckers because it's been a year and America's still going to shit, and then keep all the rest of that money and nothing happens because it's a grant. Like, there's nothing to, and I'm not trying to play out a nightmare capitalism scenario because I'm a capitalist, but we've seen dirty shit like that happen in the past.
Oh, yeah.
And so I have some reason to think that there's some sneaky accountant who himself wants more money, who walked himself up to the first floor and was like, hey, guess what I just figured out? How we can all take a fat ass bonus when all this is over, that we can look good publicly and not take a bonus during 2020, but 2021 we'll take a fat New Year's bonus because we did so good in maintaining the company until we just couldn't do it anymore. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Even on the PPP loan side of it, so like when it first came out, like 75% of your loan for it to be a grant had to be spent on payroll. They lowered that down to 60. Right. They at least started to be like, hey, like, what you can't do, like, I believe one guy went out and bought like an expensive car, got like a $1 million loan and went and bought a car, right? He got hemmed up for fraud. But so that like there's an audit function or an oversight, right? That like in their heads are like, okay, there is a way that's gross negligence of spending, and then there's a way to do it right. But I just don't like it. There's a certain level of business that when you get above there, like, we have no oversight. Like, we don't know what American Airlines, Boeing's, what any of these companies are doing with the money. But for the PPP portion, because I have like clients who did it, like, we have to present like, hey, We got $24,000 in this grant. We spent over $18,000 on this, and then we spent on this, and we have to present, like, we fill out that paperwork, and then some will be audited, probably 2% just random audited, or those who do it wrong. And they'll have to present pay stubs, they'll have to present receipts and things of that nature. But again, I don't like where things happen in a vacuum, and that's what makes me feel like, okay, like, is that capitalism? Because, like, even how we're kind of, like, we went around the table, like, we all kind of had different ideas on how we could, like, oversight, or like how we could have a touch point. And like the fact that they have zero makes me feel like they just gave their friends money, and like that's either crony capitalism or socialist for the rich, and I don't want to be a part of either. And that's always where I've been, like, look, it may not be 100%, like, I don't want to be in your boardroom meetings, but zero, like, is that smart money?
Well, and to that point, there was so many companies, I'm sure you could find a list when the PPP program first started, that got big ass loans, that until there was articles written about it, they were just like, oh, we'll just hold on to it. You know, big old companies that didn't need it because then they gave it back.
Including private universities.
Right. And it wasn't until they got public pressure that they gave the money back. They were just going to hold on to it, you know, and just keep it and do whatever with it and pay 60% to payroll and then keep the rest of the money they would have spent on payroll anyway. That's crazy to me. I
don't remember what episode it was, but we were in the old studio back at the garage. And I do remember having a list of all the companies that received the first initial payments. And you'd look in the top, like 15 were all different airline companies and a couple of major corporations and stuff. And then it got all the way down to, you know, the mom and pop shops getting $1 million here, $1 million there. But there was the ability to track that kind of money always, you know, puts my hackles up, because I just go, wait, we're just doling out money, and the oversight is it's negligible at best. And that's, but also especially when you look at like the travel companies and the airlines, the government and that industry have been so intertwined financially over the last decades, because you can't necessarily run an airline the way they run them at a profit necessarily without charging $1,000 a seat for a ticket, you know, from Seattle to Arizona or some shit, you know, something that Southwest will do for like $250. I don't know, but Southwest is always the cheapest. That's just my go-to. I don't know.
That's how we fly through Southwest here.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I love Southwest.
I've heard good things about people that fly Southwest. They're really cheap. They get you where you need to go, which at the end of the day, you know, if you're flying on any other airline, the best you're going to get is like maybe a different quality meal. And like maybe the difference is you get a cold meal versus like a pack of peanuts.
Yeah.
But like Southwest, like, we'll just do this shit on the cheap. We'll get you where you want to go. And we're not going to charge that much money. Come on. We just know you want to ride.
Interesting.
But I don't know. I've flown a lot. You haven't flown that much, have you?
No. Well, the last time I flew, I had that horrible experience, you know?
Yeah.
It was like, we flew Delta. I've only flown maybe like 5 round trips in my whole life. Like I really haven't done it that many times. And so,
which is a lot more than even some people.
Yeah,
people
certainly.
Never flown.
But the last time we flew, we went to Michigan to see Jordan and Aaron's dad. And like his grandparents and stuff like that. You graduated with my sister-in-law.
Erin. I literally saw your wife. I was just like, wait, I know her, because I had met her before, obviously. So, I've known her for a while.
Yeah, her and Jordan look very similar.
Yes,
you can tell their sisters 100%.
So we flew out there to see their dad and his parents, and on the way back, there was like, what was the deal? Oh my God. Okay. So
I love the airline stories.
It was horrible. Yeah, it was horrible. And we went to Michigan. We went to Free Soil, Michigan, which is just the tiniest fucking town that exists. And so we had to drive like 2 hours to Grand Rapids and then fly from Grand Rapids to somewhere else on a small plane and then get on a bigger flight, right? It was a whole deal. And so when we went to get on the last leg to go home, the pilots that were supposed to fly the plane got in like 3 hours later than they were supposed to. And they have to have like 10 hours of rest or whatever before the next flight. And so they were late and they knew that, but no one said anything. They just kept telling everyone like, oh, we can't get a hold of pilots. We don't know what's happening. Like, we have no idea. So everyone's just sitting at the gate for like 3 hours. Right. And so half hour before the pilots get there, somehow it leaks out to the people waiting that like what really happened, you know? And so I'm standing there at the gate and I'm like, so you mean to tell me that you knew last night that this plane wasn't going to leave on time and you chose to not tell anybody at all? You just let everybody show up here. We could have tried to get a different flight. We could have all these things we could have done in 10 hours that you knew was going to happen. You could have sent a fucking email and nothing, right? And they're like, oh, we don't know. Like, I don't know, you know, whatever.
Bad.
And Jordan has just crippling anxiety surrounded by, or like centered around flying. And so then they were trying to tell us like we weren't going to be able to sit together. And I'm like, I'm telling you, if we don't sit together, you're going to have to stop the plane somewhere. Like we're going to have to, it's going to be fucking bad, you know? Like, well, we can't guarantee it. We don't know, blah, blah, blah. Dude, having a fit, right? And so then the pilots finally get there and I stopped one. Like as they got there, I'm like, you got to fix this, bro. I'm like, you're 3 hours late. Like you have to fix this situation. So he spoke to them in the front and made sure we got to sit together. And then when we got on the plane, right, we sat next to a guy named Jean-Pierre. That was his name. Yep. And he worked for some type of video game company, a small video game company, and did like PR shit. He was an interesting dude, right? So anyway, we sat down and there's fucking blood on the shade of the window that like in the aisle that we're sitting down in, like someone like cut their finger and like wiped it on the shade. So we sit down and Jordan pulls the shade down and there's blood on it. So I stopped, you know, the stewardess and I was like, what is going on here? Like, what the fuck is happening? You know, like you got to be joking me. All this and now there's fucking blood on the window. She's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll be right back. You know, like with something to clean it up. And I'm like, thank God, right? 10 minutes goes by. Fucking 20 minutes goes by. This bitch is still not back. So Jean-Pierre pulls out like an alcohol wipe and is like, here, like, I know you shouldn't have to do it. Like, I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. And so I fucking cleaned it off and then put it back in the wrapper. And
that's how Donovan got hepatitis.
She never even came back to like clean it up. Like she came back to do drinks. And I was like, oh, also, will you take this? I was like, because this is what I had to use to clean up the blood off the window.
That you didn't clean.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like, yeah, it's fucking really gross, right? Like super gross that I had to clean up somebody else's blood off the window. And so,
I mean, I joke about the hepatitis thing, but that's bloodborne pathogens.
Dangerous as fuck.
Super dangerous.
And so I got home and I took like a week to like really kind of like get my thoughts together and decide what I wanted to do, you know, because it was really not right. The way I felt was like, this isn't how people should be treated. You know, that's not good. Like and maybe that's a first world problem, but I shouldn't have to clean up somebody else's blood off when I'm paying you several $100s to fly me somewhere. Like I should not have to do that at the same time. So I wrote a letter like, this is my experience. Here are the pictures that I took. And I'm like, I'm not writing this because I want you to pay me a sum of money. I'm like, I just would really just like someone to acknowledge that this is really fucked up that this happened and no one cared, you know, like
just do better.
So I got an email that's like, oh, we're super sorry. Here's pick a gift card for $100 from any of these places. And I went to work the next day and I think it was right after you stopped working there. And I was telling the people at work and all the fucking boys in the cutting area, they're all dickheads, you know? Oh, yeah. And so I'm telling them like, this is what happened. I'm just so frustrated because like, I don't want money. Like I don't care about this. I want an actual person to email me and like, tell me that they actually give a fuck that I had to wipe up someone else's blood, you know? And they're like, oh, well then like, why would you even email if you don't want something? Like, obviously you want the money. That's why you emailed. No, I just told you I don't want, like, that's not what this is about. I'm frustrated that that's what they offered is money, like, because I don't want it, you know? Yeah. By the time that I actually decided that I was going to collect the money, it had been over 30 days. So the email thing expired. So I couldn't even go and get the gift card. It had been too late.
Oh, God.
So, yeah. So the link that I got for the gift card didn't even work anymore. So I never even got the $100.
To contextualize that, right? I think a version of that story probably runs common to most people that fly.
I'm sure.
And now add on the fact that the government just bailed them out for
billions of dollars
for $500 billion. And it's not going to get better. They're never going to be better. Every time you deal with an airline, you just basically need to accept that you are cattle going through a fucking system and you just have to kind of do the thing. Get your fucking rights torn away every time you get in there. Literally, your rights are molested every time TSA touches you.
100%.
And I
Don't get me
think
started.
that's what my biggest deal was like, even the guys that I worked with couldn't acknowledge. I'm like, it shouldn't be this way. Like, just because we rely on airline companies to get somewhere, we should not accept them being treated like human cattle just because this is the only option,
Yeah.
Because they are all like, well, we're going to give you the bare minimum of compassion and human care on this airplane so that you'll still come back. And past that, I don't give a fuck, because all I really want is your money. And that's just a dark side to capitalism. The individual care is completely out the window of like, we need bodies on planes so that we can make this bottom line this weird.
Well, it's the same reason they overbook flights,
Right. Just in case.
Because inevitably somebody ain't going to show up.
Do you have any terrible flying stories, Larry?
No, I'm super easy flyer. I never really flew until I went to school, and now I fly all the time. I actually have a great talent. I can fall asleep under any circumstance ever. So like, I literally like, my wife makes fun of me because like before we take off, I'll be out, and then when we land, I'll wake up like, oh my god, we're here. And
That's
so like, I'm the easiest flyer ever. Like at West Point, I only brought like a backpack everywhere I went. So I even check a bag. I refuse to check a bag.
Smart
I
man.
convinced myself that they have the hardest jobs, right? I convinced myself that someone was like mean to them or yelled at them. So I just try to be polite. I try to go through there. I will say I pay for TSA pre-check. I pay for every like comfortableness besides first class because I try not to take out my headphones. It's the worst experience ever. Like everything's slow. Anytime you ask a question, like there is no answer that's coming back that's going to rectify a situation. It's just going to be like an answer to where you have to figure out yourself. So
yes,
I've been very lucky where I've had nothing terrible. I've had like my bags lost once, but no terrible stories. Like I've been on some bad flights. I've had the planes just shift up and down in the air that were like, oh, this might be it. But
oh yeah, that's fun.
This might be it.
Whoa, that was about 15 feet. Shit.
Like we had one going back to Austin where my wife convinced me like, sorry, it was pretty bad. So we flew to Tennessee to see my best friend. Coming back to Dallas, they're like, hey, like this storm's so bad, we have to take you to a different airport. So like in the air, like they rerouted us to Austin, and like everybody apparently on the plane was like going nuts, like holding. My wife said the woman sitting next to us was like they were gonna die, and like I just slept through the whole thing. Though
you slept the whole time.
The whole time, like again, like as soon as I sleep, like I'm in a trance. So like I'm like she swears up and down like that was a horrible flight, and like people on the plane also thought we weren't gonna make it, but like I felt like I was comfortable. So
Tyler,
you're just getting that massage.
Exactly. Like I'm just
Tyler, my coworker, Tyler Baumgartner. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I know T-Bomb. We play basketball against each other.
Oh yeah, so I work with him. His dad and his uncle actually own this company that we work for, and so I'm sure you've met his dad before and all that stuff.
It's all connecting. Yeah, I've met them all. Like that
exactly.
Massive, like them and the Garjules, like they're the mafia family of
Yeah. So
Mafia.
Casey Bowman also works with me,
Yep.
and Drew Vittleson also works with me, and Spencer Hansen also works with me.
Actually, like those are literally all kids that I competed with in sports. Like Drew Vittleson obviously went to play sports, but like in elementary school, in junior high, he was the kid that could shoot with both hands. He's ambidextrous. Yeah. So like that's just how we knew Drew. Like he had like an ism about him.
Yeah. Yeah. So I work with all those guys now, and Tyler has expressed
so funny.
A similar issue. He's told me, he's like, I fall asleep too easy. Like I can't lay down on the couch because I'll fall asleep and then I'll just be out for hours.
Oh yeah.
know? And Jordan, my wife, has like terrible insomnia. There are sometimes she just won't sleep. That's just how she lives. And I think she was around me when Tyler said that. It's just like, I'll fucking kill him. Like I'll murder him straight up. It's really funny. And like Dax was really young at the time. Our son was really young, so she was sleeping terribly anyway, just because the baby was in the room and stuff. Just like, I'll kill him. I'll do it.
I'll just kill him.
Yeah.
And Tyler's about to have his baby, right?
They're
like real
literally
soon?
waiting any day. Yeah. They have an induction date on Tuesday because then she'll be 1 week past her due date.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Good for them. I'm
she
excited.
Drank some castor oil Thursday night, to try.
Is that what does it?
Oh, she's trying to.
Yeah, trying to move it along. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Tyler's sister, Christy, who has had 4 Garjule babies now, I think, swears by the castor oil thing. Swears that, if you take a shot of castor oil, like the next day, that'll be the thing. Yeah, apparently that's how all 4 of her kids have come. Has been she's taking castor oil, and then that's the deal. So I couldn't do it. You know, castor oil is like,
it's like I'm gonna literally Google this.
It's like no oil from the gland of a beaver. I'm pretty sure that they like put on their like on their dams and shit, where they put their babies, like they put it on top of there. I'm pretty sure that's what castor is, and it smells like shit and it tastes like shit. It's really not good. Yeah, she said
castor oil is a vegetable oil pressed from castor beans. Castor oil is a colorless to very pale yellow liquid. So saith the Wikipedia.
What am I thinking of that comes out of a beaver?
I'm going to Google beaver oil.
Yeah,
because
be careful about Googling beaver oil. I can imagine what this is.
That's a good point.
Beaver also is castor oil?
No, beaver in Spanish is castor.
Oh, beaver in Spanish is castor.
Hmm.
So saith my wife from Ecuador.
So maybe it's
Do you guys have
castor
beavers in
oil.
Ecuador? No beavers in Ecuador.
Oh,
Well, though, maybe.
Yeah,
Depending on what we're talking about.
I swear to God, because I just laid out this whole story about beavers, and it's like, oh, it's castor beans. But I swear to God, there's an oil that you get from a beaver gland. I swear.
Yeah, it's a castoreum. Castoreum is a yellowish exude from the castor sacs. The castor sacs.
So it is
mature
castor
North
oil,
American
just a different kind. I feel like I learned enough of meat eater from Steve Ranella when he's talking about trapping beavers. So
wow, that's weird.
It can be called castor oil.
Okay, I'll allow it. That's like an insane like fact that you kind of know off the top of your head. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That's
it's
a pull,
slightly
right?
upsetting, but
yeah.
Although I'll give you credit because you said you learned it from Meat Eater.
Yeah.
Because that's here, Larry. I'm going to show you this picture. I'm going to bring this right up to the camera. Maybe you can see.
That's what is that? Castoreum?
That's the castoreum gland thing.
Oh Jesus!
So they pull them motherfuckers out of the beavers, apparently.
So there you go.
So
yeah, and they
now
use
when you do
that
some
to
beaver
do
trapping.
something over their dens or their whatever a beaver house is called. They live in the dam.
Yeah. They make
go.
a den within the dam.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you go.
Yeah.
They put it on top of that. It's a repellent thing.
Oh yeah, if you can keep the water and keep their den dry, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Oh,
saying.
wow. Yeah, beavers. Wow. Okay.
Crazy.
Okay. I'm literally. I have no smart thing to say about this. I'm literally just learning.
This is why we come here.
Welcome
So
to
we
the
should
show.
learn new
This-
things.
My whole life is like this. So we can. Let's talk about the executive orders from last week or from last episode.
Okay.
Because 2 weeks ago,
We'll do
Donald
more
Trump-
sportsy stuff towards the endy.
Yeah, well, let's do this, and then we'll talk about Larry, and then we'll, do whatever. Yeah, whatever happens. Yeah, we'll talk schools, and then we'll talk about school pods, and then it'll work. So
It's pretty loosey goosey around here.
yeah, we kind of lay out rough orders what we're doing.
Like I said, Rogan style.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. Just let it rift.
So technically, I believe I read only one of them is an executive order, and the other 3 are memoranda, right? Which is, I would argue, it's semantics at this point because they're all laying out various economic stimulus things.
Mhm.
But the package. So like again, so I'll lay all 4 just as they are, and then we can kind of talk through it, right? So like the first one was the eviction ban, which basically means you can't evict people, right?
Right.
I'll just lay them out, and then we kind of talk loopholes and how like the language of the law is different than what it was said.
Perfect.
The Social Security tax cut, the deferral that was posed as a tax cut.
The payroll tax deferral, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then the enhanced unemployment benefit. So that's basically the state will pay $100 and the federal government will pay the other $300. And then the student loans, you basically you can defer out your student loan payment and there's no interest incurred, no late fees incurred, which I think of all the 4, that's my favorite. That's the only one I'm really behind. But
Yeah.
so we'll start with the eviction ban. So the eviction ban in the language, it says you cannot evict someone unless the wording's wrong. If there's a chance that it could spread COVID, you can't evict them. And like that was explicitly in there. And they haven't tied the loose end of if there's no risk of COVID, can I evict them, right?
Yeah.
And now there's a loose end, but there's an executive order. So now any of the evictions have kind of been halted and have to automatically be sent to courts, right? Because like that's like the loophole, right? The Social Security tax cut, like obviously, like so I won't dig in deep. I do have a slight bit of a libertarian strand. So when we dig into taxes, I I get like a vein that pops out, and then I dig.
It's very welcome here.
Yeah, exactly.
Pumping right in the back. Ah,
Yeah.
this is wrong. This taxation is theft. Fuck.
It's insane. But so the deferral means that like we don't have to pay it, but it's technically not forgiven, so we're still liable for it.
Right.
So,
So,
like,
let's take a second on that, because that's, like you said, it was billed as a tax cut. Even on that day, I watched the signing ceremony when President Trump's laying out what he's going to do. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to cut the payroll tax back so you don't have to do this. The very next day, when he's doing a press conference, he's saying that it's a deferral, and that when I win in November, then I'm going to make sure you don't have to pay the taxes back, and then I'm just going to cut the payroll tax and all. But no expansion on that a deferral is not a cut, right? Because as we saw in the first stimulus package, there are people that have no fucking idea what that means. There are people
100%.
that thought that the payment they got was a deferral and they were going to have to pay it back later. And so Larry, us, all these other, I guess very few independent media companies took their time to make people understand you don't have to pay this back. And now exactly what they feared the first time is happening this time with the payroll tax.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it makes the work twice as hard, because now we're like, well, I know we said this the first time, but now you should actually be scared about this because we're going to have to worry about it. And I told Colin that by the time that I got home after we recorded 2 weeks ago, you had already been on Facebook breaking down the orders that he had signed. And you said in there when you were talking about the payroll tax deferral is, just remember this is a deferral. I would suggest you save this money because you're going to likely have to pay it back at the end.
Exactly.
And I thought that was a great bit of advice that you would provide it to everybody, that it's only like $75 on average, that people are going to get. Save your money. Like, don't spend it. It's not a bonus. It's not any of this shit.
I think part of the problem with understanding that is in some of the wording that they use.
Right.
I heard the term. So when I say this, you just use your reptile brain. Don't use your smart thinking cap on. But if I was to say, we're going to give you a payroll tax holiday,
right?
What would that tell you?
Right. A holiday is like it's a vacation. Yeah. And I thought,
I
don't got to pay that money back.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought when it was like first posted. My friend's like, yo, payroll tax holiday. I was like, yo, let's go. Because me and FICA, we've been at odds for a while.
Yeah.
Then I read it and I was just like, yo, like this is, again, I'm not going to call him a liar. He is in every way my boss and I respect the position. But that was misleading the people. And it gets gross. And that's what I try to tell people. It's like if Colin's just like, I owe Colin $20 and he was just like, you know what? I'm going to give you a holiday. And then at the end of the year, he's like, listen, you got to give me that $20. And then be like, oh, you just didn't understand what holiday meant. I was like, that's misleading. And I didn't love that. Right. So that's where I got frustrated. And then also, so have you read the actual order, right? The executive order. So it says that you can defer taxes in tax code 26 USC 3101 in parentheses A, right? And if you look that up, the average person is like, oh, yeah, payroll taxes. If you look that up, that's only the 6.2% of the portion of the 7.65% that people have to pay. So they're not even getting the full 7.65% back. They're only getting 6.2, and that other 1.45% of the FICA portion, right? It gets aggressive, right? Like now we're so deep in there, but there's basically 1.45% of your paycheck that you're not going to get back, but you expect it to come back. And that's just in the wording, right? But he didn't talk about that at all. Because essentially, there's two taxes in the FICA tax, right? There's the Social Security portion and the Medicare portion. So the payroll tax holiday is only on the Social Security portion, not the Medicare portion.
Really?
Yeah, but he never splits it up, never talks about it. But in his executive order, it does. And that's why I get frustrated when people haven't read the bill. And again, I need someone to come out. What am I going to tell someone, right? So the president, the most powerful man in the country, probably in the free world, just said something, but the document doesn't. So I'm not going to be the one that say this is wrong, but I can say that this has not been super parsed out, and that's where I get frustrated, right?
Because you said, he's also your boss.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. He's my boss, right? There's so much. Litigation is the wrong word, right? Because no one's suing me, but there's so many rules and customs and courtesies you have to follow. But this one idea was not completely drawn out, right? That's where I was just like, okay.
Yeah. And I think that's very interesting because even I'm going to say even all the articles that I've read, they've mentioned both of those areas of tax being cut. It's the full 7.2 or 7.5% or whatever. So I would wonder how many journalists even, and it's shitty because that's their job, right, is to read the order. So I would wonder how many journalists have even actually read that full executive order before they wrote the article about it, about this is what it's going to be like, this is how it's going to look.
There was one person that glanced at it, he glanced at it, wrote the article, and then the other journalists saw the article and wrote their articles based off of what they said in the original article.
This sounds like a Salt of the Streets exclusive to me, is what it sounds like.
Oh, fuck yeah.
That's very, very interesting.
You know what's really funny about both of those programs that essentially we're talking about? I mean, if we're getting a holiday or a deferral on the Social Security portion, but still paying for the Medicare, it's because we can't afford to not pay into Medicare at this point.
Yeah.
Because as of pre-COVID, before any of all that stuff, Medicare and Social Security were running out of money in, I believe, 4 years.
Yeah.
They were going to be bankrupt. They can't afford to shut that stuff off because Social Security is something you have a pretty specific group of people that are getting Social Security every year, and then they slowly die off and more people go in. The boomers are slowly starting to go out. So they're getting more money in that realm. But Medicare can go for all sorts of people. You know, Medicare, Medicaid, stuff like that, and all comes from payroll taxes.
Well, especially in the expansion, like you said, once COVID happened, there were so many more people that if you didn't have insurance, you could still have a COVID-related illness and have that covered by, by the feds. So, excuse me. Yeah, and so those were, so we talked about the eviction moratorium, and I also think we should note that on the eviction moratorium and on the student loans, right, these are also only regarding federally backed loans, right? So like even my mom has a student loan that she got from like a private bank that is not covered under this executive order. That is,
if you have Fed loan, then
right. And I think that it's the same thing as this payroll tax. It is not explained the way that it should be. That's like, just because you have a mortgage doesn't mean it's covered by this. Just because you have a student loan doesn't mean it's covered by this. Because my mom is, and I'm thousands or if not millions of other people are expected to then work with their private bank and not with the Fed. You just have to work with them, tell them, hey, I'm dealing with these issues. I really need a break, and hope that they'll be like, oh yeah, that's cool. We'll defer it or whatever. But there's, I'm sure, at least one dick ass underwriter that's like, fuck no, I want the money. Give it to me now. You don't get to not pay your loan. I think that's very interesting.
Well, and see, let's talk about the eviction thing for a second here, because there's a lot of aspects. There's more than one aspect. The two major aspect is the renter or the leaser, and the building owner or property owner, right? One has to make payments on their building, and one has to make payments to the landlord so they can make payments on the building. The renter is now covered essentially, more or less, through the executive order and all these different eviction suspensions, whatever you want to call them. And we have a state level one, we have the federal level one. But is there much protection? I mean, the executive order that I have in front of me now, it's only 2.25 pages long, and a lot of it's kind of hard to read the first few times. You got to go through it a few times, but I didn't pull anything out of it that really talks to like property owners and landlords in this case, where it's protecting the renters. You think like an apartment building in New York City, maybe you got 500 apartments in it.
New York City.
Yeah. How many people are not going to be able to pay their mortgages or their rents there? And now all of a sudden this building owner has to pay the mortgage to the bank. Does he have to seek eviction protection from his bank too now on his own side? And then where do all these, are these deferments? They got to be deferments, because that money's going to go somewhere. They just back in the loan.
Even just people who own small multi-home properties.
Yeah.
There's
like
not even an apartment building.
Or something.
Right. Somebody owns a quadplex. Like one of the people I was with last night owns a quadplex.
Oh yeah.
And one of their renters has stopped paying their utilities. Just like stopped doing it. But he can't evict them for not paying their utilities. He just has to cover that part of the bill. And he's seen like, he even discussed with her when all this happened, like with all of them, that none of them were going to have an issue paying their bills. None of them were affected by COVID. They were all fine. She just stopped paying her utilities one day. And so there's not even like a justification monetarily for it. It seems, she just isn't doing it to like keep the extra money or whatever, just isn't talking about it. And like, where does that leave this property owner? You know, if that's his only, not that he whatever, you know, but if that's their only source of income and they're operating on a fairly thin margin as it is, then like, what are they supposed to do? You know? And that's, I don't know. I am, like Larry said, and like we've discussed a million times, I'm a capitalist deep in my bones, you know, but there's still like, there are these cracks and stuff that people fall into that I'm like, I don't understand how this gets solved. You know, what do you do with this? Because there's so much stuff that I feel like, especially involving COVID and the stimulus plans and the packages, that it was just kind of a shotgun effect. And like, well, we'll kind of patch up the holes afterwards, you know, with all the unemployment. There were so many people that got all this unemployment money that didn't need it. I mean, in our own state, like what, $100 million or something like that in unemployment fraud of people who collected it that didn't need it. And they had to go back and get it afterwards, slowed down the process of processing it, everyone for 2 or 3 weeks, because they had to just try and collect all this extra money. You know?
They sent out that letter too for our state that was like, they sent to anybody that had collected unemployment, and it was basically like, if you've been taking this money, if you've been fraudulent, we're going to lock you in a cage for the rest of your life.
Right.
And it scared a lot of people. A couple of my employees that were collecting unemployment during the hardcore shutdown, they got these notices. We're like, what the fuck does this mean? Sounds like I could give all this shit back. I was like, no. That's just because of all the fraud that's been going on. Don't worry about it. You're not doing anything fraudulent. You're good. But this is the broad hand of government trying to fix the cracks and the holes and all this shit that only people on the ground know how to handle. Government they barely know how we live our lives on the day to day on a good day, much less when shit's hitting the fucking fan.
Yep.
It's not a good sign.
And just like the eviction ban, like basically calling what you said, like that's the problem with the eviction ban, right? Like, so everything he says, right? Like they do have mortgage forbearance. So like, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, so like in the CARES Act, they do have mortgage forbearance for a year or until the end of the pandemic, right? I think it's 2 or 3 months after the end of the pandemic, or a year. So like, that's something that you could do. So I know different kind of property owners that have entered into a mortgage forbearance, and it's the same, it's like the same thing as the student loan, right? So you need a federally backed loan.
Yeah.
If you do have one, they'll basically be like, hey, you don't have to pay your mortgage this month, and you don't get any late fees, no interest, no more interest than normal. And basically they take those months and put them at the end of your 30-year cycle. But then what happened was, when people started doing that, when this first popped off, the banks were just like, hey, like, no, we didn't agree to this. And like, there was a bunch of stats. And again, just like you're saying, Colin, because like they're trying to do it from so far away, like everything's messy on the ground. And then again, it's never the person. I'm not worried about like the wealthy person. I'm not worried about the person that's going to do it. The person who suffers is the person that doesn't have the resources. Like through this, I have a lot of smart. Like, I'm the dumbest person I think I hang out with by far, easily.
That's a good place to be.
Yeah, but and then like West Point has afforded me the opportunity again to just like have other people like distill things down. And then when someone who doesn't have those opportunities are getting beat up at the bottom, that's where I get frustrated, right? And I don't know if that makes me less of a capitalist, but like I hate that the run of the force is always at the people at the bottom, right? The person who's fourplex trying to do the right thing, and now they're getting taken advantage of. And then the eviction isn't supposed to be like, hey, capitalist, like I own everything, get out. It's supposed to be a way for the person that's trying to grow their wealth to defend their wealth, right? No one's worried about Jeff Bezos staying rich. We're worried about the person who's trying to build the wealth, build the cash flow, and support their families by providing and take care. And so like that's where I get frustrated, right? Like those are the things, right? So like
another couple years for that guy that owns the quadplex, maybe he could buy another one.
Right.
And then he starts growing that wealth, and boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, you're providing a living for multiple people. You're putting a roof over their head. You're giving them a place to live because you have these properties that, whatever, you can offer somebody a place to live. You know how it works.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they still have to pay the mortgage on the places like that. And then if their bank goes, we didn't sign up for this crap, dude. You still owe us money, man.
Right.
I mean, and I'm obviously sure there's definitely got to be different programs stuff out there for those types of people.
And those issues that we saw with the banks also happened during the PPP program, right? The ones that Larry are talking about. When that first happened, there was no uniform way for businesses to apply for the program. So they're all doing it individually for the banks, and so many of the big banks and small banks wanted different information.
Larry's going,
I'm sure you know exactly. Yeah. So it was hell for small businesses, large businesses alike that are just trying to apply for the program that can't find a consistent way to do it if they're in a different bank, or only a certain amount of money, a lot of like all this different stuff that happened in businesses just trying to apply for it.
And I do have an anecdotal story about that too, but
yeah, so you remember when this happened, Larry?
Yeah, so I had clients come up. So like the PPP was like super great program in theory, right? But just like you said, it was decentralized. So there was money out there, and then every bank was doing it differently. So like literally the day it opened, I had probably 6 clients that had to do it, right? So I'm helping them do it. And the first one we're going to go for Wells Fargo. Well, Wells Fargo sent out a notice on their thing that said, hey, we closed. It had only been 3 hours into the day, right? So then you're looking for banks to find the funding, and then you have to go to the bank, do a pre-screening level to know that you're not fake, and then they send you 12 documents. So I'm literally working in 6 different portals, working through a ton, I won't say a ton, but multiple income statements, trying to get all this together to meet. There was no standard across the board. It was literally whatever they wanted. And then there was no way to know how much money you're going to get, right? Because, again, you apply for X amount of money, but you don't get much. And then, there was another veil there. So, you would have people come back hey, I need $30,000 to run my business. And be like, okay, well, here's 2. And you're just like, what calculation did you use to do this? Because, the calculation to get it was simple, but, no one knew, what they were doing beyond that to give you it. And there was just, there was no back and forth. All the lines were busy for a week, all that. And then everyone's worried that the money's going to run out. And then this was going to dry up before people get it. It was nuts. It was nuts. And then and then Congress pissed me off again. Cause in the middle of it, Congress saw that this wasn't working. And they did the first good thing I've ever seen them do, which was they passed an intern bill that was 8 pages long to revise and fix up the program. And then I see this and I'm like, not only was it 8 pages, but it was unanimous. Everybody voted yes. Everyone's like, yeah, this is great. And I was just like, wait. We just agreed on something that was 8 pages.
What do you mean?
What is this?
This is insane. And then now, whenever I see whatever's going on now, I don't know who to be mad at, but I know, I just want to lock them all in a room until, no one leaves until it's sorted out. Because, again, there's just, it was crazy. Sorry, I got off track there. But yeah, it was,
that's good.
It was in every way, it was just explosions. I was just like, all right, here we go.
Right.
So without crossing any, client confidentiality boundaries or anything, out of the clients that were pursuing these PPP loans and stuff like that, would you say the majority of them were going through banks of more like the Wells Fargo size, or were they going, were a lot of them the more local community banks?
So I don't work with, I work with smaller, right? So maybe 5 million and below, right? That's generally the demographic I work with. But I'm in a pod with a lot of accounts. I have a lot of accountant friends because they get my accounting jokes. So, anyways, generally, the smaller people, they saw a lot more success going to neighborhood banks, right? Because again, it's a different, when you go into Chase, Wells Fargo, you're just a number. Honestly, if you were died, they would send your dog your credit card and hope that he would spend it. So the back and forth and knowing people had worked real well for them. So I told a lot of my clients, yo, just go to credit unions, right? You can have dealers at the big banks if you want to, that's fine. But most of the money we got, I would say the majority from the people I talked to, my clients, we went to smaller banks.
Okay. Because that's my anecdotal experience with it is with, I have a member of my family that owns a local bank.
Okay.
And I had asked him about this and their experience with it and stuff. And he kind of relayed to me that essentially they got inundated with PPP loan requests when they first started, right? But it was all these local contractors, local companies that had gotten loans from them before, had accounts with them, had a working business relationship. They said within a week or two, 100% of the PPP loan requests, they were able to get in, get vetted, and everybody had their money. But I think it was because they all did that at that local level. Right. They did it with that small bank they already had a pre-existing relationship. I want to say that bank is anywhere in the nature of like a $4 to $5 million bank, so it's a small local bank. And it was nice to hear that at least on that level, it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're talking the big banks, man, there's a reason. I used to have Bank of America. I've had Chase Bank at one time. Right before that big Wells Fargo fraud incident happened,
Yes.
I had a Wells Fargo for like 6 months, and I was like, get me out of here. Right. And so, but then once you go to a smaller bank like that, it is a totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
Like you might be a number to them still, but you're a number with some context,
right?
Versus like Chase, you're literally just whatever your fucking credit score is and how many dollars you got in. That's it.
And I think before we move on to the rest of these executive orders, memorandums, whatever you want to call them, I think that it's important to note that all of these things we've just talked about are kind of examples of ways that the big can of government is not made to serve everybody at the same time. It's government, even the wonderful one that we have here, is not in its purest, most perfect form designed to serve every single person in the country at the same time.
Words.
It's just not.
It's designed.
It can't effectively do it.
Yeah.
It cannot effectively do that.
It's real good at giving money to states,
and that's what I've drawn a lot from this coronavirus, from all the pandemic to everything. It's just things that are better handled at a smaller level, and all these things that have tried to be handled with big sweeping stimulus bills have had to be patched up afterwards with, like I said, even beautiful 8-page pieces of legislation, but they've all had to be dealt with on the back end. And it's like, well, we'll just throw shit at the wall and patch it all in the end. And it's concerning to see that. And then through all of the social unrest, how many people are pushing for like a more communist society, more Marxist society, more societal rule. It seems odd that everything we've seen in the last 9 months, 8 months isn't evidence to the counter of that to all these people.
I'll pull out what I said in the pre-show about the post office. If it hasn't been good thus far, why do you want more of it?
Yeah.
It's been bad. It's been historically bad. They're not good at getting you money, period.
Right.
They have no idea what's going on. Your local does.
Right.
Your local has a better understanding.
And we're doing this same thing, I think, on a bigger level, especially with these executive orders and things of the like, of just ceding more power to the executive. They're like, just fix it for everybody. Just handle it for everyone, please, from the top. Even though you can't see it, you don't know, like we just talked about, all this stuff, these 4 executive orders are going to be passed, and then they're going to have to be fixed in the end. It's done from the highest spot, the most power, and it's not going to work like this. Like I said, even in the language of the executive order, it doesn't work the way that they said. So even from the start, it's not what it seems. It's not the way that it's described, and it can't work. It is impossible for however many people in this country. What is it, 30 million or something like that? How many people are in the country? Way more than that?
Yeah, way more than that. Try like,
I don't know.
It's like 300 and
something,
60 million.
It's like, 320 something.
There you go. So 320.
Yeah.
It can't be done. No. It's not effectively. It cannot be done.
We couldn't do it back when there was 100 million people here.
No.
Or less than that. It's never, ever throughout the history of the United States been able to work from a federal top-down way.
Yeah.
That's why states' rights were so important. That's why your local governments are so important. The local dog catcher race should be more important than voting for president.
Yeah.
It really should be.
100%.
And so can we pivot subjects real quick?
Yeah.
You last night were having a conversation on Twitter with Mr. John Satak.
This is Josh Keaton.
Josh Keaton about
and Josh Keaton has an older brother named James Keaton that you might know.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Like the last name sounds
I'm
familiar.
highly impressed,
James
by the
Keaton,
way.
Josh Keaton, and the middle brother.
John, James. I don't know. You guys were having that conversation on Twitter last night that I jumped to right at the end there, talking about the importance of local control and stuff like that. First of all, that was about, I retweeted that. So everybody on the Twitters, go and find that conversation, because that's how all Twitter conversations should be. And you had initially started with, I'm going to have to pull it up now because I don't quite exactly remember how you started that off.
It was something about like stimulus not being important anymore. Like that the stimulus, heck, that's what I've been on this week. That's what I've been on this week. That's been my issue is that Congress was willing to walk away from the Capitol without having written a stimulus bill.
Yeah.
But they came back immediately so that they could hold the committee hearings for Louis DeJoy, right? Which I thought was
super important.
fucking disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a giant middle finger to people. Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
And like you were talking about, it's hard to decide who to support, And there was this week that I just told everyone, like, none of these people deserve your support. None of these people who walked away from, while they're all at home tweeting about, hey, people are struggling, Donald Trump is doing nothing. People are going to lose their homes, Donald Trump is doing nothing. And the moment he passes these executive orders, like, this is unconstitutional. We need to challenge this. We cannot let the executive have this kind of power. It's ridiculous. He's a tyrant. He's trying to take control of the whole country, right? But we're not going to do anything because we got to hold these committee hearings.
Exactly.
But to be talking about the importance of it at the same time that they're abdicating the responsibility that they have to do something about it is like shocking. And then to celebrate themselves at the DNC all in the same week, all these things happening at the same time is crazy. And the general public is more focused on the idea of the president trying to take control of the election via the post office that they don't give a fuck anymore. It doesn't even, the conversation has completely shifted.
And I think the point that I was going to make was right there at the end. There was this fundamental misunderstanding, I think, that we have as a populace with the federal government and especially the highest offices in the federal government, the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader, the Senate Minority Leader, all those, and then the President of the United States. There has been so much celebrity put behind these people now, especially now when you know what the rest of the regular celebrities are doing? They're sitting at home on fucking, on their social media because California is locked down tighter than a drum and they're making these fucking bullshit virtue signal posts.
Yeah.
So our regular celebrities are gone.
Yeah.
And so it's that much more open for President Trump and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell to be our modern day celebrities. And I don't know at this point, especially now in 2020 with all of this, the election coming out, how can we remove the celebrity factor from politicians and get the populace back to focusing where the focus needs to be?
Yeah.
On your local representatives and even your federal state reps and stuff like this. But like the actual politics of the country should be hammered out on the state level and the federal government should just be chilling. Like we should almost not even give a shit who the president is.
Yeah.
But would you say that perhaps it's too far gone at this point and we'll never get back to a truly federalist, republic focused governmental system?
Larry, you go first.
I think that's tough. I mean, it's something I think about a lot, right? Like there's two big things that I thought about is like when you talk about the celebrity of it and like how they get so much acclaim from like the famous people in our, like now like you have them like getting retweeted by the smart like celebrities or whatever. And like, so at what point have you ever seen someone gain more power and then give it away?
Right.
And that's what really frustrates me, right? Because like everybody's like, well, this is an unprecedented time. We need to take unprecedented measures, right? And I'm always just like, okay, that logic makes sense. But then when 9/11 happened, an atrocity, we need to go on alert. But has TSA gotten more perverse in their powers or have they gotten less perverse in their powers?
Right.
So I always come back.
We all know the answer to that one.
Exactly.
Well, and I'm pretty sure to your point that the Patriot Act was just re-signed just this year. That all this has happened. We're pulling out of the Middle East because we've handled terrorism, we've handled ISIS, we've handled all this shit. But God forbid we get rid of the Patriot Act.
The security state infrastructure still stays in place.
Right.
And that's what I go to, and that's what I always think about. So like, are we too far gone? I'm hesitant because people seem as though they're more comfortable with it, that in a government that has shown that it's flawed, like whether or not you think X right or Y's right, like it's flawed, right? And then people think the medicine for bad government is always more government, right? Like, have you ever seen someone be like, you know what, I took control of that whole process, it didn't work, I'm going to let somebody else do it. No, it's I didn't have the right people in. I didn't have enough power. And then they argue, right? And it's manifested in this scenario, right? So, like, I follow the stimulus pretty closely. Excuse me. Just so I can explain it whenever it happens, right? Like, I enjoy doing it. It's, like, sick and perverted, I know, but I love it. Anyways, like, if you, like, listen to Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell talk about stimulus checks, they're no longer arguing. Everybody agrees that people need more money. Everybody agrees that people are struggling, but why hasn't it passed? Because that now has become a pawn in the great political debate now, right? Like, because now it's not, well, when you get money, it's just like, well, we give you money, but like they didn't sign our bill because of like voting. I'm just like, okay, hey, like voting's serious, like I got it, but again, we started at this meeting saying we agree everyone is struggling, right? But we've given these people so much power, we now have no way to circumvent or rectify the situation. When everybody agrees on something and it's still not going forward because of all the other stuff's attached, like that's when I think it's got too gross and too big. Because like now, how can we as people who agree, like everybody agrees across the board and we have no way to fight for our voice, right? And the people that are fighting for our voice, quote unquote, have taken the power that we've given them and have grossly used it. And we have no way to impeach them, right? The first whole Russiagate was about Trump did bad, let's impeach him. But now we have negligence at the Congress level, and we can't impeach, get rid of any of them except through voting, right? And then again, we can talk about voting, but like there's no midterm way to get rid of someone not performing for us because they're public servants. And like, again, I, at a much lower level, am just a public servant, right? In the sense that when the Army tells me to do something, I go. Like when I mush when told, right? My guys do the same thing. Like we respond to whatever is told of us, right? Because we're public servants, right? We make a wage, but we work longer hours generally. Like we don't get kind of compensations. Like we're going to be uncomfortable. Like a year and a half ago, I was just randomly in Eastern Europe, just hanging out. And like, there's no talks, right? But like our other public servants on the Capitol Hill, like there's no want to be uncomfortable to work for us. Because again, I just don't like having a party, the DNC, the RNC next week when everyone's still struggling. Like, we're like, hey, like this is the worst pandemic ever. I'm just like, right. You're literally having a party telling me why you're great. But like, because again, it could not be Joe Biden's fault. He's not in office, but they're not pushing out any bills. Like they're still taking recess. Like they're still going home. Like they're still sitting on $200,000. So like we're so far gone. The people in power are not going to give it away, and we as like constituents think that more government fixes it, right? And we have not identified a way to hold them accountable. So.
And to that point about the stimulus bill,
well, just real quick, I do want to say there is a way to do it. I think it's incredibly complicated, but the recall process is essentially forcing, it's like it happens mostly on like the governance level, on the state governance level. People try to recall the governor. You've heard that probably before, right?
Yeah, but you can't recall everybody in Congress who needs to be recalled. And there's way too many people.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, technically, I just didn't want that to go misunderstanding. That like there is technically a way, but realistically, it's not possible.
And we've seen that with some smaller positions, like you said, with judges and stuff like that. But that's to Larry's point. This issue is too large for a recall to even be standard course of action. That
because we need clean sweep.
Exactly. And to the point about the stimulus bill, right? And the confusion about the powers even is so much of the argument of the stimulus, like I said, turned to mail-in ballots, right? Yeah. And so much of that, the blame got shifted to the president. The president won't give us $35 billion. He won't do this from Congress, right? Mm-hmm. When Congress has the power of the purse. The president has no power to give or take away money from anybody, but that's even the media talking point. Oh, the president won't see the $35 billion. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember who I was talking to, but I've told several people, there is not a person in the country that could convince me that if a stimulus package hits the president's desk that has $35 billion for the mail office, he won't sign it. Just because that money's in there. There's not a person in the country that can convince me that, because it's not fucking true. If a stimulus bill hits his desk, he's signing it. Even if he hates every piece of it, he's signing it if it's passed both houses, because it is,
especially this time of year,
it is political presidential suicide to do anything else. So the argument of him denying the money, it is it's not even a straw man. It's a lie. It is a 100% lie about the powers of the executive and of the legislative branch. And it's gross to watch that happen while all of this, the party's happening, the posturing is happening, And Colin and I talked a little bit in the pre-show, or maybe even before, that of the clips we've watched of the DNC, because I can't bring myself to watch the feed, I can't just watch it, but I've seen many clips just from other shows, and there's been almost no talk of policy. No. It's all just Donald Trump is terrible. We need change in the office. This has to shift. This can't continue. Even the best one that I saw was, and not to take it off, but was Michelle Obama talking about how we don't need someone who puts kids in cages.
Yeah.
You mean the policy that started during your husband's administration? We don't need some. That's the craziest thing, is that it's not, there's no discussion of even realistic policy. It's just this man's bad man, orange man bad. Yeah, we need a shift. It's crazy to watch that, It is. And so my answer to your question would be similar to Larry's, that the people that are there are way too far gone. There's at this point, hashtag flip Congress. Just turn it over. We need everybody to reapply for their jobs and try again, and not even in a standard election process. You need to go on stage for an hour and speak. We need 3 people standing in front of you, fact checking you the entire time. And you need to talk for an hour about what you're going to do, what you've done, and why you deserve this job. And the moment that you lie, one of those 3 people catches it, they slap a red button, they say, that's not true. You need to take back what you just said, because it's half true. It's this. I want 3 Snopes people, not from Snopes, but Snopes style people saying that's fact checking every time. And I want to see it 535 times, and I'll watch every single fucking one of them. Even if they don't work for me, even if they're not from my state, I don't care. We need, from the top down, a fresh start for everybody working there, because anybody who is okay with leaving Congress without a stimulus bill to bitch about people dying to then come back just for committee hearings doesn't deserve to work there. Yeah. There's not a single person. There's a lot of people in Congress and Senate that I love. They don't deserve their job anymore. You're no longer doing it. You're abdicating the responsibility and blaming the executive, who has nothing to do with that process at all. Yeah. You just don't do it, So you're waiting and waiting and waiting until he has to do something, and he pushes you, and then you blame him for it, Yep. I'm not a fan of the president. I don't sit here and champion him. We take shots at him all of the time. But you've literally pushed, let's take Donald Trump out of it. You've pushed the office of the executive to the point that they have to act because you won't do it. And then you immediately legally challenge it because he shouldn't be doing it in the first place. 100%. You force him into a constitutionally compromised position to then take legal shots at it. All to try and get Joe Biden in the office. And it's the most hollow pursuit I think I've ever seen, because if you know anything about politics, you're sitting back and you're like, so there's no way that Donald Trump doesn't win, right? We've seen all this happen before. And if this is the argument, is that you're terrible, there's no way. That was the argument last time. That was the case against him last time. Is that Donald Trump is terrible, know? Yeah. That's not going to work now. It's been 4 years later. Things are even more divisive. Those people you couldn't flip last time are even more deeply ingrained in what they did before, Yeah. So, I have in my soul all of the faith in the world in our system, in our founding ideals, in the beginnings of this country. But the people that we have allowed to take those positions do not hold the same values that we do. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the Bill of Rights. They don't care about people who own quadplexes, who own small businesses, who want to start small companies that are sharing opinions that are not publicly popular. They don't care about those things. Those are not the people we need running this country.
So at that point, would you say that it's the populace's fault for continuing to elect these people?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's like, this is just what we deserve.
Yeah. We definitely distance ourselves away from information, right? I've always thought it was a 2-pronged attack, right? So I'm, again, libertarian vein. I've always been a fan of no government, but less government, right? A smaller, limited power government. But that makes it imperative that we as the people, our culture has to be one of learning teaching and being great people. And I don't know if we still have that culture of learning and trying to absorb fact and then trying to make everybody's level or like everyone around us experience better, right?
Mhm.
Like I think that's where we're kind of struggling is the culture component, and that's fine. But like the big one that I'm seeing is like this new war on free speech. And I was listening to
Yes.
Jordan Peterson that kind of summed it up the best. And he was just like, we need free speech. Like we have to be willing to make someone uncomfortable in order for us to think, right?
Right.
And I think when we got so aggressively attached to feeling great at every time, we got away from a culture of trying to find what's right.
Right.
And now we're kind of stuck in, I want to be right and I want to feel good, right? Because I will say, like, when the George Floyd thing happened and the Black Lives Matter reemerged, I had some, I won't say heated, but I had some arguments, and I got crushed. Like I got fucking handled, right? Because I didn't have the facts, and so my opinions, whether or not where they came from, they were just built on bad facts. So that shit got crushed, right? So I think through that process, like we're so worried. You can call it offending people. We're so worried about protecting our narrative. We're so worried about being right that our culture of just wanting to strive for more is kind of decaying. So I don't.
Yeah.
I do blame the populace a lot, but then again, like I'm part of it, right? Like the social media culture, which I love social media, right? I can just delete off my phone because I spend too much time on it. And I think that's a manifestation of us trying to spend the least amount of time on super complex things, but holding on to those super tidbit snippets, memes of like what's really going on. So
Right.
I think that's I do blame the populace, but I acknowledge that I play a role in it. You know.
Mhm.
And what I would add to that, what I wrote down, kind of
I mean,
again speaks to
yeah.
what you're saying, is the biggest part I would blame on the populace is shouting down the opposing voices that are trying to bring attention to this type of stuff, and not even just strictly opposing voices, but people like us, like Jordan Peterson, like Larry's talking about, that are really just trying to talk about the root constitutional places that the country started and expose how this leadership, these people
Mhm.
don't fit into this, and people like us, all the people that we've talked about before, get shoved into the corner of radical ideologies and, white supremacists, racists, whatever, transphobes like Jordan Peterson got, because they're talking about structural problems that exist at the top that people aren't willing to listen to, because of that populist attention on that celebrity factor, like you're talking about, of politics and aggression and not wanting to be uncomfortable. And that's not right because I don't like it. We see that type of stuff all the time. It's if something isn't not right just because it makes you uncomfortable, you just don't like it, And the issue that I think I've used as an example the most amount of times is abortion, right? When people talk about people who are pro-life, right? And they're just, you want to control women, you want to do all this stuff, it's not about any of this stuff. There's so many people that hold pro-life views that from a religious aspect, from whatever reason, right, truly morally feel that abortion is murder, and that's why they oppose it, right? Not because they want to control what you do or don't want you to have options, because they truly feel that it's murder, And if you discount that to just controlling someone's body, that's not an honest conversation. It dehumanizes that person's perspective. It takes it completely out of any legitimacy at all. It's just about control. Oh, you just want to control men. You just hate women, and that's dangerous, to not to do that to people's opinions, and that's happening all of the time.
Yeah. It kind of, I think, goes down to a deep, the farther we get away from the founding principles, right? The founding principles. You got to remember, like, we are a nation founded from refugees from a different political system, right? We left that, and then we created this thing because this is what we wanted our society to be based off of. This is why we always think about social and political commentaries, because the two are completely intertwined. The only reason we have this concept of liberty and this idea of how we're supposed to live our lives and how we should think about things like abortion and all these hot button deep issues, because they're deeply fundamental. Right. Like, the farther we get away from the original perspective, the more complicated our societal woes get. And so just by nature of divorcing ourselves through bigger and bigger government because we're starting to get away from responsibility and we're starting to look more towards safety, and we want the government to watch out for us.
More and more offices, alphabet soup, organizations, the ATF, all these different
and that
things.
Is fundamentally a further retreat from the founding principles. And so with that comes these problems. And again, back to the original question about like, can we fix it? I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in it, I guess, but I like listening to you guys. It makes me feel a little bit more hopeful because you're obviously like, no, the system's solid. We just need to get back to the system. And I just don't know if people are willing to make that sacrifice. A lot of more people are going to get sick. A lot of people are going to die. It just requires people to rely on themselves again more and rely on your community more, which we've forgotten how to do through a generational gap. We have no generational memory about how to do that.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think like you and Larry were both talking about, because we're so far gone, it's going to take like a lot of deprogramming, it's going to take a lot of switching people
from brainwashed.
Yeah. From the side that they were originally on to the side that they really feel, I mean, when we've talked about it 1,000 times. When we first started, I was way farther left, you were way further right, and we have almost switched sides in that aspect, and
we're both lost souls at deep.
right. And it's
politically homeless.
It's going to take a lot of people like that consuming content that makes them uncomfortable, to make them question their own views, to realize where they really align at, and it's going to take a lot of people consuming content like this to realize these conversations are happening, to realize that the things they're thinking when they're in their room alone are not radical ideology like they're being told, because and we talked about in the pre-show, there are so many things that we've just talked about here that modern day media ideology, they're radical. You can't think like that anymore. That's not how it works. The government doesn't work that way. And it's not. These are traditionalist, originalist views of how the government was designed, how the country was designed to work. These are not radical. This is how it was meant to be. This is how they laid it out, But when you radicalize that type of idea, you radicalize those people, Thomas Jefferson, Frederick fucking Douglass statues being torn down, right? When you radicalize that type of thought,
right there.
Yeah, it's
you're blowing up the foundation.
You are completely shifted from what we were actually founded to be, so that you can blame the founding for the problems, and that's not the case. You have to shift the ideas so much and shift the people so much away from what they really are, so that you can try and place the blame on them, and it's like you said, all these problems are not because we stuck too close to founding ideology. It's because we tried to make the government too big. It's because we ceded power in too many different directions that it wasn't designed to be at,
Well, we forgot that the Constitution is a bargain that we all have to make a deal with. This is our society. We make that societal commitment, and we've generationally just decided that we don't want to keep that commitment anymore. And so we've lost that. I just keep coming back to this word, responsibility. We've lost it societally.
100%. And so, like, two things on that. You guys both had two good points. The first, are you guys flat? Let me rephrase that, because I'm not a flat earther I'm not a flat earther in any capacity. Have you seen the documentary on Netflix about the flat Earth community?
No,
I have not.
Oh, you need to watch it. One, it's hilarious.
It might be in my queue, though. Yeah,
you need to. I highly recommend it. I'm a big fan. I think it's either Behind the Curve or Catching Up to the Curve. Regardless, there's one portion in it when he's talking, the guy who started, and he was just like, I would never leave this community. He's like, this is where all my friends, and if I left, then I would have no friends. And I was just like, he's like, I'd have no incentive and no one to hang out with, and the people wouldn't accept me, and then the people I left would hate me. And I really thought it was an insight on the psychology of what's going on. I think some people are scared that if you are to change your mind, because again, if you're a Black Lives Matter, you're out there writing, and then you stop, you're like, this isn't right, this is what I want. No one out there is going to treat you well. And then how many communities on the other side, right? And this is what I tell my more conservative friends, is you have to be accepting of people whenever they do make the change. Because what happens is when people make the change, or try to make the change, or try to think differently, they get beat down from both sides. And then they're just like, well, now I'm just homeless and I have no friends. And I'm just like, we need to be a little understanding, right? Like we need to be more understanding just as a whole. And then on the second point, Colin, you're talking about the Constitution. So like, again, I can't impress you guys enough. I was a gigantic loser in college. So most of college, I carried around a Constitution with me, right? Like everywhere I went, I keep it in my breast pocket, my back.
Love
back
it.
pants,
Yeah,
right?
we actually these are both ours here.
It's my favorite document ever written. And I think the Constitution's big is because like everybody demonizes our past, right? The big one right now that we've all been hearing, it's like slavery, right?
Right.
And the Constitution was written and there were slaves, but the Constitution is like a promise to improve yourself every single day, right? It's the promise that every single day that I'm going to be better in support of the country. And like when you're talking about responsibility, I think we forget that like it was created and perfect with a perfect vision, right? And Vince Lombardi said it, like, I'm going to pursue perfection, and while I won't get there in the process, I will achieve excellence. And right now I feel like everybody's like, well, the roots of America's bad, the culture of America's bad because, you know, free speech is bad, capitalism is bad, so America must be bad. When America picked the best economic ideology, capitalism, because it provides for the most rights, like human rights, in order to, but like it's incumbent when we sign the contract, when we take this, that we have to every single day work to be better, right? And like that's what's always, you know, like helped me try to get better is because like every single day I'm making a commitment to our founding fathers. And everyone's just like, well, Larry, they would have hated you're black. But like even Frederick Douglass, when he talked and when he spoke on like why black people should be released from slavery, he spoke about the Constitution. Martin Luther King spoke about the Constitution because again, it's like a promise of always trying to be better, right? And so like everyone's like, yo, slavery, and then it's like, well, we wiped out slavery. And then everyone's just like, Jim Crow laws, like we wiped those out. Like the KKK, like now the KKK, like if someone came up to you like, yo, I'm part of the KKK, like they're inherently a loser, right?
Right.
So like we are getting better, and so when everyone's like, well, we have so many problems, it's like we're not there yet. It's not done yet. The experiment's not supposed to end at 220 years. Like we're supposed to continue to get better. And I think that's what's happening is like everyone demonizes so much of what we are doing and what we did. Like everyone's like, America's never been great. And again, I don't know what Trump was talking about when he said it, but like to say that like when people band together to stop slavery that we weren't great, when people band together to overthrow German movement and encroachment onto Europe, like we weren't great. When people charged Normandy beaches to release the Jewish people, like we weren't great. Like we've been imperfect. But like to say that like those people weren't trying their best to live up to something bigger, like that is, I think it's gross, but I think that's been so perversive into our culture. Like people like, well, America sucks. And I'm just like that's a tough bill for me. So like, yeah, just on those 2 points, like I just feel like I don't know when it happened, but like we forgot our contractual obligation. And like for some reason now we think America's horrible. And I'm just like, imperfect, but we have 320 million people trying to get on the same page. No one has this population size except for who? China, who's forcing everyone to get on the same page, and India, who, again, I don't know much about them, but seem like they're getting through the same kind of turmoil as we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're just notoriously always on our side too. Like India's always been like a clutch ally for whatever
100%.
reason, you know, because I mean, the Western world has fucked them up pretty hard, but like, they're like, nah, it's cool now. We're all good. On that note, I was going to say, I've been watching the Umbrella Academy lately, right?
Okay.
And I just started watching the second season, and it's it takes place around the assassination of JFK's time.
Okay.
And they started off the other day by showing him on TV, and he said his famous line of, you know, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Right?
Yeah.
That I think is more centered towards that kind of social contract that we have with our country. You couldn't even begin to push those ideas at this point.
Right.
It's all about what government owes us for their past discretions.
Yeah.
You know, which through the necessity is the society's discretions, you know.
Yeah. And I think to Larry's point, I've offered more times in the last 4 months to debate people about the greatness of America than I ever have in my whole life. Like so many people just talking about it's so terrible, you know, from the roots, it's terrible. So I'm not like calling about like you can't argue against it, but I've never had to have that discussion with anyone before on a legitimate basis, you know.
Yes.
But more people that we actually know, like our friends, and I'm like, I will literally debate you and prove to you that America is the greatest country to have ever existed before. Like, on the whole planet, this is the best one to ever have existed, that you can do more things here that you could never do anywhere else. I'll literally do it and I'll win, you know?
Can I ask you, is it very difficult?
No, I'm not on my part. I don't
I was gonna say it feels easy if you're willing to just look.
I don't generally have to get past the founding documents. You know, I'm like, it just doesn't, it starts there, you know. This document protects you, I mean, instills and protects more things for you than any other country's founding documents ever have, you know. These things are not promised anywhere else in the whole planet, you know. It just doesn't happen. There are many other places that have similar things, you know, very similar,
but it ain't quite there.
It's not as solid as like, nope, fuck that, you have it here, you know. And I think so many people, I've had a lot of these discussions over the last few months, right? Since all the protests, all that, everything, America has all these problems and all this. And the one thing in the original that I think I've boiled it down to a lot of the times is people not understanding that the government doesn't provide you these protections, right? That document is saying, the government doesn't give you these things. It is not provided to you. They are inherent within you because you're a person.
That's the concept of negative rights.
But we're saying because you're in these borders, we're going to protect that, right? You have it as a human being, but here we protect it because you're here and you're in this country, you know? And if people they've got completely away from that, you know, that it's the government doesn't provide these things. Their only choice with your rights is to recognize and protect them. That's it. You know, they don't get to infringe all these laws, that all this extra bullshit like you talked about, you know. These are not things that the government is designed to do from the founding, and inherently in that they are flaws, because you're going against the construction, the design of the country that was designed to be perfect. At the end, you know, you're fucking it up. You're ruining it. You are going to make it break. And that's where we're at now. We've added so much stuff. You're going to break it, you know, and
that's terrifying,
you know, and if we don't understand even that core part, I know if everyone understood that, I mean, how many laws could be stricken off the books immediately because people would be pissed off about it, you know? So be like, well, that's not a protection of my rights. This doesn't defend them. This isn't a reflection of that, you know? It's at least a third, probably all the, not to give Trump too much credit, but all this stuff that he's been talking about, all the regulations to cut, you know, probably at least that many you could slice because they don't actually protect your rights, you know? People don't understand that. They're too afraid for the loss of jobs. You know, well, what do you do with all these people that work for the ATF? Fuck them. I don't know. Work in the private industry. I don't know. That's not your job. Is unconstitutional. You shouldn't be having it. You know, that's unfortunate. And I feel for people losing their jobs. But if your job is based inherently in something that's unconstitutional, we'll find a place for you somewhere else, but I don't know what, you know.
So you want to talk about doing something for the greater good, which is so common on the left, that concept. That's it. It's called ripping the Band-Aid off. That's what's for the greater good. There's going to be a lot of struggles if we were to get back to normal. A lot of people are going to die. A lot of people are going to become homeless, that type of shit. But at the end of it, do you want America to be around? Do you want a nation that was founded in the idea that the only purpose for government was to make sure that your rights are provided to or are protected? Other than that, live life, be free, and we'll write laws, we'll create our own rules. But
in the end, we got you. But So let me ask you guys this, and then we'll move on to another topic, right? And we'll start with Larry, and then we'll ask you, because of all these conversations I've had about America being the best, right? And even fucking founding fathers, right? Having to defend people like Thomas Jefferson, that they're like, well, he owned slaves, like
George Washington.
I've so many people that I've been. That's another deal, right? Yeah. But Thomas Jefferson in particular was just always grinding my gears when I was hearing people talk about it. You know, I'm like, of all the guys you're going to pick, like you can't with this one. But anyway, what would be your number one argument against communism and for capitalism?
Man. So, in a real capitalist society, I think capitalism is accentuating growth while maintaining human and civil rights. And I think communism is growth through sacrificing human and civil rights, which in my mind breaks down individual thought, growth, and what's it called? Oh my God, which degrades growth while capitalism just causes it to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's always been my biggest thing. It's just I don't like communism is the centralization of power and the centralization of planning, right? Central planning. And then capitalism is supposed to be decentralized in its approach to allow for you to achieve your dream while like not infringing on somebody else's rights, you know? And so I think that's the best way to tie into a social contract is through capitalism, because again, is it easier for everyone if I put a room of people in a room, 100 people in a room, and I said, hey, don't kill each other, but like, you know, play nice? Or in communist rules, it's like, hey, everybody has to do 1 through 50 things, otherwise you're living outside our bounds. Like, which one's going to be harder to work together, and which one's going to grow more because of the new ideas that come out, the ingenuity? That's the word I was looking for, the ingenuity. So yeah, that's my biggest case for capitalism.
Word.
Good case. Solid case.
Colin?
I mean, it's essentially along the same lines, but I'll just cloak it in a different way. We'll call it, do you like choice? Do you like to be able to have the freedom to decide what you want to do with your life? Then capitalism is the way to go, because capitalism is literally all about choice. Communism is literally you follow the rules that we tell you to follow, and you don't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah.
You just do what you're told and you're good. You don't have any choice. If you want choice in life, if you feel like you want to carve out your own living and go your own way, capitalism is the way to go. I think it's that simple.
I love it.
It could be that simple.
Okay.
I gotta run, hit the head real quick, if that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Get out of here. Go. Okay. So let's go ahead and start talking about you, Larry. We'll talk to you about personal life, sports and stuff like that. And then I think we can shift it into school pods, Okay. So were you born in this area, or did you move here?
So I was born in Bremerton, but we only stayed there for about like a year and a half. And then my mom was in the Navy, so we went to Guam and then Hawaii. And then I got back when I was like 7 or 8, and then I stayed there till I left.
Okay. And you have a couple of siblings, right? There is a surprising amount of, well, I guess it's not surprising, maybe weird amount of articles about you on the internet, that was just like odd to, I mean, not like intrusive, but it was just weird to, I think you're probably the first person we've had on that has like New York Times articles written about them, like Bleacher Report articles, stuff like that, And so you have siblings, right? Do you just have sisters? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I have 2 sisters, and we're just hanging out. They have 5 kids between the 2 of them, so that's pretty much all the kids from our family.
Good Lord. Yeah. And where are you in that order?
I'm the baby. I'm actually, my older sister is 10 years, and my youngest sister is 6 years older than me. So I was like a quasi only child, because like when my sister left, when I was 12, it was just me and my mom in my house the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. My sister is 7 years older than me. And she's exactly the only like blood sibling I have. So I know exactly what that is like. When did you start? Okay. So let's start here. Your mom was in the military, and it said in one of these articles that your parents got divorced, right? At what age were you when your parents got divorced?
I think I was 8. Yeah, 8. I was like, it was 9 or 8, because I was in 3rd or 4th grade.
And so did it affect you much at the time, or was it just as you got older that you started to deal with that?
No, I think it was when I got older. I think you kind of realize like the gravitas, the significance of not having the parent there day to day. I think that was a little different, and you kind of don't realize it. And again, so like, I'll say it, even though I hate to say it, I don't want to gender all people. Like, there is no rule that you have to fulfill, but generally the mom kind of nurtures you and raises you, and then like the dad, when you're older, like answers all the tough questions, and then there's a lot of figuring out your own way that like there was a little bit of loneliness. And then like, you know, it would be sad sometimes where like you would have a big game or you do something cool and then like everybody else's dad was there and yours wasn't. You just go, why is my dad here? So like,
Right.
I think the older I got, I had to kind of come to terms with like how it affected me more than when I was a kid. Because I mean, I was an idiot. I love to eat though. I ate a lot of food, so I was a fat kid.
Yeah.
You don't really think about it too much when you're a kid.
Right. It's same deal as having older siblings. My parents divorced when I was 2. So I didn't remember at the time, you know, but the same deal. Only as you get older do you realize the stuff that you have to figure out for yourself, you know,
Exactly.
Especially as having a single mom who's providing for your whole family, who's I'm sure worked a lot, you know, in the military, she's got to do stuff all the time. You know, when I read in one of those articles that she was a chief warrant officer, right?
Yeah.
So she's working a lot. She's dealing with a lot of people. She's putting out a lot of fires, dealing with a lot of shit. So I feel very much for you as to how hard it is to figure some of that stuff out in being a young adult. Did you find any of that to be easier because you were in the military, that you had more male influences there to try and learn some of that stuff? So I know a lot of it's internal, like just figuring things out for yourself. But I know that like when I started to work, I had a harder time bonding and getting along with like male coworkers because I had grown up with my mom and my sister and my grandma, and I always had been more friends with girls, just had an easier time working with women, dealing with them. And so I had a harder time fitting into that type of environment, you know, you know who I work with, Tyler, Drew, they're all sports guys, you know, so they, and you know, they got all the other dads, all that stuff. So they're all very much of that standard, like type of jock mentality, you know? Did you have a hard time fitting into that military lifestyle, or did you find it easier to learn about that stuff because of that?
So I think it kind of, so throughout high school, I had a lot of good male role models, right? So like even when I don't know if I ever acted out because I didn't do anything crazy, but like if you ask my family, when was Larry the most difficult to handle? It was 7th grade, 6th and 7th grade. And like, cause I was just dumb. I thought like, you know, I thought being bad was cool. I thought breaking the rules was cool. And my next door neighbor, he was just like, listen, like if you keep doing this, if you keep living your life like this, you're just going to go to prison. And I remember at Fairview walking up the hill from the football game when he told me, he's like, yo, call the cops on your mom, leave her. Like your life's going to be horrible. And he gave me this long talk. And like, that was one of like the pivotal moments that I've had that kind of led that long line of just like male influence that kind of led to me. So like when I got to West Point, like it wasn't that it was a hard time fitting in. It was just the structure to it all, right? So like you do a lot of dumb things in college and you just can't at West Point. So like when I'm taking 24 credit hours a semester, when I have like treatment at 5 a.m., practice after school, I can't leave on weekends for the first 3 years. I didn't have a car. Like it was more the structure. And then I was on the football team. So like my teammates, like you create a bond there. So like they did a great job taking care of me. Right? I'm not the only one in my situation. So like that combination of like structure, teammates, and like the male role model influence, like that was really good for me. Like honestly, like I don't personally think I would have made it out of a normal college, like because again, I'm just like I'm not always as disciplined as I should be, right? And it shows in my eating probably more than anything. But I'm telling you, like when you have someone like making you be somewhere at 5 a.m., like you want to spend a lot less time up after 8:45.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. At what age did you start playing sports? Obviously, football is the one that you found the most success in. But you played you played basketball and stuff too, right? Because you said you played against Drew. So
yeah, I played sports pretty much all my life. Probably 3rd grade is when I started playing organized sports. Basketball is my all-time favorite sport. Love basketball. I can play for hours. When it was probably my junior year, I will say going into my senior year of like Olympic, when we went to the Gonzaga camp and like I saw what Division I players look like, and like I was just like, man, I'm 5'3.5". Like I'm never gonna play basketball. And then that's kind of I saw some success early in football, but that's kind of when like it was like the final kill for football. But like I've been playing since I was in 3rd grade. I mean, I've always liked sports, you know, like mainly college football, like the video game really like fueled that that gusto, like wanting to be on that game. But yeah, just since my life, it's been pretty much a part of it. It's kind of pulled me through Olympic because like I wasn't lost, right? I won't say I didn't have any friends because like obviously like, I was known, but like I felt kind of a loner because like I have a very business approach to my life, right? So like when I entered into high school, like you can ask my family, I was just like, this is literally getting me ready to play college football. So like I didn't go out to parties, I didn't go out on weekends, I slept more, I worked out more. I was like, because like this is what Division I athletes do. So like I made sure that I had lifting all 6 semesters I was there because like that's what Division I athletes do. I don't go out to parties because that's not what Division I athletes do, right? So like that made it weird, but yeah.
So you didn't do any of that shit when you were in high school?
No,
Like
I didn't have to
smoking
drink
and drinking,
alcohol.
none of that. Like,
No, I didn't have to drink alcohol until I was 20, almost 22 in the February before I turned 22 in March. So yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's
I
just
can
like
see that.
I was just like, that's not what athletes do.
really?
Well, so let me ask this question. Did you take that same kind of commitment to discipline with football and stuff at that time? Did you take that like in high school? Because it sounded like you had a very pivotal shift in how you ran your life at that point. Did you
Yeah.
carry that into the academics too?
I wouldn't, not as much. Like I was solid academically, right? So like I had like a 3.5, 3.6. I think my problem was like academics came easier for me. Like I would push myself towards maths because I'm not a very good writer and I read very slow, right? So like if you ask my family who've edited a lot of papers, my family reads books just at a brilliant speed. I read super slow. So like I at Ole just focused on spending as much time in the math as possible and then kind of just slid under the radar and all the reading, literature and things of that nature. So I don't know if I took that same kind of discipline approach. I existed in high school academia because it wasn't very
Sounds
high.
like I was saying, it kind of sounds like you found like a niche. Like you got into the maths and then you kind of made that your thing. And and the rest of when you think about what high school is, I can see you just do what you need to do to get the grade and then you move on, but you don't necessarily dive into it. But well, I'm asking this because, to get into West Point is not a small thing. It's not a very easy endeavor. I mean, when did you decide that you wanted to go to West Point in high school?
So I got recruited by them.
Okay.
So I got recruited
Through
by
the
them
football
for
team?
football. Yeah, by the football team. And my mom, again, bless her heart, hardest working woman, super smart. She was very she impressed on me while trying to get me to achieve my wildest dreams that like, what are you going to do after football, right? Like she would always be like, what if you get hurt? Like, what are you going to do at football? So like when I got recruited by West Point, I didn't know much about the school. I only knew about the game, Army-Navy game, because my mom's a 24-year vet. But it was the number one school in the nation. And then when I went on a visit there, they were just like, listen, you come here, like you'll never have to worry about finding a job ever. And like in my mind, that's what my mom had impressed on me. She's just like, you want to be able to take care of yourself and your family. So that's kind of when I got turned on. It was probably that junior year. I got that recruiting letter, and then I won't say I was hooked from the beginning, but then I really just didn't quit. That was the key. I don't know if I thrived at West Point.
So the military aspect of West Point,
Yeah.
how did that play into the decision?
So it was weird. I think my mom wasn't super pumped because, Army, everyone thinks you're just going to go to the front line, just, go to Afghanistan.
I mean, had you thought about the military side of that when you got picked up for the football aspect of it?
Yeah, I respect, again, I say it all the time. I respect my mom more than anyone in the world. And the military for her was a very foundational in her growth. So I've always felt that like serving your country isn't expected or owed, but like it's one of the greatest things that you can do. Yeah. So like I wasn't like super pumped, super knowledgeable about it, but like at the same time, like serving our country, like I took a lot of pride in it, right? Like if I'm gonna go there, like going to the number one institution, then after I'm gonna serve in the Army, which like I don't know much about, but like I know for a fact that I'll respect and have respect for myself in doing it.
Had you considered going into military at all before you got this recruiting letter?
Yeah, I talked about it. It was a backup plan. I didn't think I was gonna make it in college football. And I don't, like in my heart of hearts, when I was at ninth grade, I was like, if I don't make it in football, like I can't just go to college. Like it's just, I don't find school fascinating. I'm either all in on a subject, math, sciences, economics, or I'm just out, right? Like if you look at my grades, that's kind of what they show, right? And so I was like, I'll never make it. And so I didn't think I was good enough to play college and football. I was just like, yo, there's no way I'm that good. And so I was just like, I wasn't going to go. So I won't say planned, but I thought I'd end up in the military. And then as I started experiencing success, I was just like, okay, well, maybe I can play in football. So it wasn't the main plan, but it's kind of funny that as it ended, I ended up in a military position anyways.
Right. I think a lot of guys in this area, well, in the country, but in this area in particular, have the military as at least a backup option because there's so few choices in the area. You know, that if you don't want to go work in the shipyard immediately and you don't want to go and
try to find a job,
go to college or try to find a job, then you're just going to join the Navy or the Army or
or the Coast Guard. I mean,
or the Coast Guard, right?
Yeah, no,
right.
That was I was going to say, what's funny is you had this kind of thing about, you know, you didn't think you were good enough to play college ball and all that. And then obviously you were. And we have the stats to prove it at this point. So I want to talk a little bit about your football career while you were there. I mean, not everybody has a New York Times article written about their time at West Point playing football. It's particularly a particular game at which a fumble at a critical time, you know, might have altered the history of the universe at that point.
Do you remember this article being written?
So I don't remember that specific article. I remember like it was like a super emotional thing. Like I vaguely remember sitting, like I remember the room we're in. I remember like our quarterback was there. It was just like, it was like super emotional. Like it happened. So like, do you want to start at the beginning? Do you want me to describe the play? Because I have the play pretty much memorized at this point.
Let's hear it.
I'm just we can do that. That's fine.
Sophomore year going into junior year. So freshman year, I kind of played for the first couple games, and in the most awkward of awkward ways, my coach tells me that, hey, you're the new starter at fullback, right, in front of the whole team. Super awkward. Push. I had varying success. My sophomore year was kind of my first breakout year. Fast forward into the Army-Navy game. We're literally down by 3 points. We're driving down to win the game, right? It's the biggest game of the year for us. We're the only show in town that specific day. So we're driving. It's late in the game, right? And we're going, and we're ripping up, like we're literally gashing them. We're ripping off runs. Like one of my good friends, Maples, he's the other running back. He rips off a 15-yarder. I rip off a 10-yarder. He rips off an 8-yarder. I rip off a 20-yarder. We're looking in the crowd, like we see it in our head, like they're done. They're like, oh my God, they can't. Like literally at this point, every time I touch the ball, my weakness at the time is always conditioning, right? So we're on the 11-yard line going in, right? And the way the triple option works is I either get the ball or I get crushed, right?
Right.
And everything you do needs to be very specific in your steps, right? Like it's insane to talk about, but like if you're 6 inches wide, you've messed up the play. I've ruined everything. So I'm 6 inches wide, right? I'm so tired at this point, right? No huddle. You're exhausted. You've played in probably the hardest game at the end of the year, right? Like injuries, you feel everything. And I was like weak-minded. Literally, like I literally got beat. It's down race to hikes the ball. I'm 6 inches wide going in, and I see the gaping hole that is like they say you could drive a Mack truck through. We could all get our cars together, drive through the hole, and I'm just like, oh my! Like I see it, but like again, they always tell you not to pull the ball from the quarterback. He has to put it in your stomach. But I'm wide, so he's not in my stomach. He's on the side of my stomach, right?
Yeah.
So I don't feel the ball there. So that even though I run through, not trying to pull the ball, I'm wide, so the ball just drops. They recover the fumble with 1 minute left in the game, and like that's how it ended. And like that was the game. And literally, like I literally just like I try to dive back in, but like I literally could have stumbled into the end zone. There's no thought in my mind that if I touch the ball, like we score, like I literally score, I'd probably throw the ball up into the stands. Like I think about it all the time. Like I won't say it haunts me because I sleep through the night, but like it's literally my soldiers found out about it because they research you, they Google the shit out of you, and so they found it. That's the only thing you can make fun of me about. It's the only thing that gets reaction. They're literally like, why doesn't anything bother you? I'm just like, because nothing bothers me. And then like that, like always gets a reaction out of me. So that was probably the worst moment of my college career. So I appreciate that one.
It's the single moment where you prove to yourself that you are human and can err. You're physically and emotionally exhausted after a brutal season. You should probably let that one go, man. That would have happened to anybody. That happened to the fucking Seahawks, for God's sakes. I mean, like, I'm just saying, you should definitely be on the Seahawks. That's all I'm saying. Because these fucking numbers are ridiculous, man. Jeez. I mean, you're talking about like picking up your sophomore year. and then some. Holy shit! It gets exponentially more and more every year. I mean,
Thank you.
you guys were on a tear, man.
Yeah, we had a really good offense back then. Like I said, we were good. Like I had a great experience there, right? Like so that like the New York Times article is not even the funniest article. It's not even the best article, right? So like, listen, I don't like to gas myself up too often, but the Washington Street Journal did an article about the most hit man in college
football's most pummeled man. I have
there it is. That's my crowning moment right there. See, that was it. That's the one. That's probably been like the funniest one that I've ever seen. But yeah, so like I got hit like 37 or 40 times a game, and like I would only get the ball 9 times a game. So like that's probably like the craziest part about playing the offense is I got hit so much. And
this says in a game against Boston College this year, the Army running back was tackled 34 times. That's fairly routine for the position. What's unusual is that on 22 of those tackles, Dixon wasn't even carrying the ball.
That's probably like that article does a better job of like, because like really like I had really good linemen, like right, like I had very good linemen. I played with really good running backs, so like to say the yards don't matter because like they rarely ever focused on me per se. But like that article really shows like what a day in the life of a fullback's like. It's just like, hey, do you want to play a position where you're going to touch the ball 10 times but get hit 48 times? And then you're just like, yeah, no, let's do it. Like, yeah,
let's do that.
Well, and I would imagine that you got it a little bit worse because and let's not even play this down. You're huge. Like that's a real thing. You're a stacked dude, and it's been that way since you were in high school. I mean, even just from some of the pictures from like the high school articles, you're bigger than most of those other kids. And so I got to imagine that played a part in like, we'll just throw Dixon in there. We'll let him get slammed, and then we'll carry the ball. We'll be good to go.
Yeah, I like to say I was very good at faking the defense. I really feel like I really sold it. Like you really thought I had the ball when you hit me. I think that was like the biggest change though from college to high school. I was like bigger than most kids. Like I was bigger or as big. And like my senior year, I was 5'10", 239 pounds, right? And I was just like, yo, I am a tank. And like I just remember, I forgot who he played for, but the guy was sick. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. His name's Trent. Forgot his last name. Plays for Stanford. He was 6'6", 290 pounds. And I remember running into his leg, and I thought he broke my shoulder. Like I really thought like it had broke. Like I was laying on the ground, did nothing, didn't move, just laying there. Like, it's done. It's broken. And he made the tackle, made the play. Great, smart dude. He's happily married now. But yeah. They're massive. Like they're actually mongoloids. Like it's disgusting.
Well, and I remember that from high school watching you play, that you were evidently much better than everybody else in the field. That was just the reality of the situation. I mean, obviously, like there's this article about the line at Olympic, that you're all working as a unit. I mean, you guys all played together for like several years in a row. So there was definitely a cohesion there that, I mean, I'm sure it didn't exist in a lot of teams, but it also helps when you have somebody that's miles better than the rest of the people on the field, that like this one article in particular was talking about how many times they're just stacking the boxes against you, and so all you got to do is break past that second level and you're done. And so if that happens early in the field, you're going to go all the way to the end. And that type of shit happened all the time, that they would just put all their eggs in one basket, all right in the beginning, and then just lose immediately. That was consistent. Yeah. So was that a hard thing for you to adjust to once you got to West Point, that you weren't that much better than everybody else in the field anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it was this. It's like not even. You don't think about it, like you're not that much better. It's like the speed. They're just so fast. Like everyone's so fast. Like that was probably the craziest thing. It's just like when they. Like in high school, like I literally felt like everything was slow. Like going from junior high to high school, I didn't feel like anybody was much faster than me. I was like, yo, like I feel it's the same. But like at college, it's like they snapped the ball and so much was going on. Like if you're thinking too much and you're not running at full speed, you won't catch anybody. And like that's the hard part. It's just like you're not gonna think, you're gonna run full speed at somebody, but you have to know exactly where he's gonna be. And if he changes anything at all, like that's not his fault. It's your fault. You have to figure it out. And it's just like you never get to slow down, but you're constantly thinking without thinking. And that layer was probably the hardest thing to get used to. But the collisions are just so much harder. Like I hit so much harder my senior year of college than I think I I like this is probably the first year I actually like, delivered blows to people because like the rest of them I just lean on people.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I've always wanted to ask somebody this, and I'm really excited to get to actually ask a college ball player.
I don't
this.
know what this question is,
Right.
just so you know. So whatever it is, I don't know.
Right. I come up with some wild shit too, especially when it comes to sports. Just the way college turnover is compared to the pros, you know, you just watch an NFL and stuff. Somebody gets a contract, they're there for X amount of years, all this stuff. You're going to be there. College, there is a yearly turnaround, I would imagine, on a team because people are graduating and moving on, and you got new people coming up from the, you know, I think like high school, like junior varsity. You got
Right.
people coming up that you've never played with before. So there's a constant. I mean, does it feel constant every year that it's like a new team every year?
Yeah, so there's like different dynamics to it, but like generally, so like you hope that they're like you have like generally a team will have like their core guys, right? So like when we played, our backfield was our core, right? When I got there as a freshman, everybody that contributed like throughout my period was like sophomore and freshman. So we stuck together for a long period of time, and then when we left, our linebacking core was one of those the core. So like you hope to develop your core, but that's why it's a little bit different in the football preseason for college is just because like literally like for a team like you're bringing in 25 to 28 freshmen and then you have to bring them in as fast as possible, and then like it's an added thing where in the NFL you kind of know if you're the guy, like you know how you stack against the rest of the league, like you kind of know what's out there. There's a few varying like quarterbacks come in like that, but like the freshmen come in, like you literally look at like this guy could literally take my spot, right? So like it's a give and take there. So it's a weird dynamic, but like during that camp, we put a ton of like priority on just like bonding experiences, different kind of like team building drills. Like, you really have to do those out like a lot because like for example, our starting two quarterback when I was a senior, our starting two quarterbacks went down, and the quarterback after them was a freshman. So I literally was taking reps with a freshman, and like So we have the play. You literally run right down the line, right? And the quarterback has to move out of my way and hand me the ball, right? I don't move for him. So he doesn't have fast enough feet, and I literally picked him up and like literally threw him out of the side of the line. He's just like, what happened? I was like, you have to move off the track. And he's like,
Gotta get out of the way.
He looks at me, he's like, I've been here for 2 days. I was just like, listen, you have 10 minutes to get this shit right. And like, so it's hard for them and it's hard for you, but like, again, it's another thing of you learn to be on a part of a team and you learn to lead, right? You pull them under the wing, you get to know them, and you try to bring them up to speed as fast as possible. And it's different. I think NFL's I had a tinge, right, of NFL. I won't say NFL experience, getting ready for NFL experience, but like that's kind of the difference, right? Like that professional aspect where like people like you can't flip the light switch, but like that NFL, like they literally go from being super cool normal guys to like trained killers. Like those linebackers, like they're literally like, I went to the East West Shrine game for a week, so I played with like the all-stars of like, there's like 3 tiers of all-stars, so like one of the lower tiers of all-stars, and literally playing with these kids, and like every day, like we would just like, I literally thought we were going to war. Like the people are bleeding, spitting blood, like punching each other, yelling at each other, hitting as hard as possible, and then on the field you're like, oh wow, we're all friends again after that. Like it's insane. So like the level of intensity, like the light switch, it's insane.
Well, I think that kind of goes with, you were talking about the speed, people play with, and that at a certain point you have to stop thinking, and so much of that there, I mean, you hear pros, coaches talk about instinct, at a certain point it turns from thinking about what you're doing to instinct. This is your body just knows what to do. So you're just doing that. And when you have that many, I mean, not to oversimplify it, but when you got that many dudes, especially young guys that are that pumped full of testosterone, that are working off of straight instinct, I can't imagine the weird places that your brain goes, and so, fights over weird stuff just because people are not thinking clearly. They're just off, get the ball, kill that person with the ball, murder them, done. Like that's,
It's got to be something similar like the MMA culture, that violent sport, the violent sports like that, where there's serious consequences, but there's so much, you have to be 100%. Otherwise it doesn't work, when both people are fucking just clashing like that. Emotions got to be raging. You know, how did you move with your left foot first, or somebody? I could just imagine the small things that could just end up in a fucking throwing hands.
Yeah.
No, it's MMA is like a whole nother level of intensity. Like I say we're like trained killers, like, but like we take combatives like courses just to learn to fight and like to be at the level. I am like a level 1 combatives trained, right? So like a very low level skill, right? Very basic essentials. Like, so where they are, like, I can't, like, they're literally in there to kill themselves. Like literally fighting them on the street would end up in murder. Like,
Right.
It's insane. Like I can't compare myself to an MMA person because like I watch it and I'm just like, yo, it seems silly. Like I could never let someone beat.
You're right. People like, it's just like practice murdering people with your hands.
Right.
Just don't quite do it. Just don't go all the way.
So
let them go once you're done.
Right.
So I have some random questions for you, Larry,
Okay.
that I'm going to kind of mix in here, right?
Yeah.
I just started picking them from people that I was like, hey, I'm going to have this guy on, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So
did we have any questions come in during the pre-show? I didn't.
I don't know. You could check real quick. My mom was curious what you feel your quality of education was that you received from Olympic High School. Because
That's a good one.
And she said to me, I want to know because she felt like the level of education that I got compared to what my sister got was very different, just in 7 years of attendance. And so she's interested in what your experience was. Do you feel like you got a high quality education when you went there? And that may be hard to quantify, but like everybody knows that CK was like a better school than Olympic, as far as like money goes, funding, like resources, like the teachers at Olympic like weren't shit, but the teachers at CK obviously care more because they're in a nicer school. They have nicer things, like that type of stuff. And so I know that I had a really hard time. Well, I was a difficult kid, but I also there just weren't teachers there that I felt like cared much, in the way that they should. Like, we're not invested in the education. We're just like, if you don't do it, you don't do it. I don't give a fuck. And so and yours may have been different because you played football, so you probably had more focus from teachers in maybe not a positive way, but.
So the quality of education, so it's tough. I think the teachers are hit and miss, right? And like we can get deeper into this with like the education pods, right? But the teacher was hit or miss. I will definitely say I was not at the same level to my peers entering West Point. So that there's a distinct noticeable difference. I won't say I tested low in anything, but reading and writing, we did writing. I am bad at writing, right? So it's hard for me to do. Right. It's like math, I can piece together super easily. Writing, I was bad at. So the thought is that when you go to school, you'll be better at it. But when I got to there, a lot of teachers just like you write at a 9th or 8th grade level. And so to see that I seamlessly made it out of that is concerning. Right. I don't know how much of that's me, how much of that's them, but I will say there was a distinct notable difference between me and my peers going into West Point.
Do you think at all that you being like a star athlete, just to put a label on it, do you think that affected your education? Like maybe teachers are willing to give you more leeway, even in the background, like even if you didn't know about it? Do you think that because your writing was only at an 8th or 9th grade level, do you think that might partially be because teachers let things go that maybe they didn't before? And I don't know, I'm just asking I'm not trying to make assumptions.
I think I really truly think that the standard was lower. The standard of what they're looking for was lower. I mean, I'm going to say no teacher treated me differently. I will acknowledge the fact that it may have happened, right? So I won't press anyone because I didn't openly see anything. But I will say, our standard of achievement at Olympic is a lot different. And I say that because I've gone home to other friends, colleges, and to see their level, their standard of what is acceptable, to see what average is there, is a lot higher than what ours is, right? And again, I don't know if that's funding, I don't know if that's teacher, I don't know what it is, but I would say our standard, our threshold is a lot different. And so that had different results. And again, spending so much time working on and learning about and going back to those rudimentaries of writing and having my friends already be there really kind of taught me that. I'm just like, well, when did you learn this? Why am I just now getting it? And they're just, well, that's normal. Like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, okay. So that's one thing I have noticed. And I don't know if I've seen it in a big way because I haven't gone back to Olympic in so long now. But, like, that's definitely something I noticed.
So there's a brand new remodel on it. It's very nice.
It looks really nice.
I was saying, 'cause I did a lot of work there.
Yeah, it was mainly me. I pushed for it. We got it.
Yeah,
I still see pictures. My niece went there, and she just graduated. I think. Oh God, she's 21 this year. So what? 3 years ago? 3-ish years ago. So she graduated, and that's something kind of what I noticed, just like kind of going back and visiting kids. But I think, personally, I think it stems from where kids see themselves in 5 years. Like, for example, my friend's from Texas, right? His football team is the only football team I've ever seen that has cuts, right? Like, they literally cut kids from playing. I think he said his senior year they had 312 kids turn out. 312. Yep, I remember because he made 6'6". Anyways, 312 people turn out for football teams. Like, my coach made cuts. Like, he said it's insane. And, like, when I talked to his friends, they were all at other universities. And I'm just like, wow, that's insane. And, like, they were talking about one of his teammates' girlfriend's little brothers, and he was talking about having a 3.0. And he's just like, hey, you're not going to make it anywhere with that 3.0. Like, colleges just – they're not even going to look at you. And, like, that kind of – like, that cultural standard they had in that community, like, where, like, 3.0 isn't good enough. Like, get your life together at a 3.0. Like, that was very interesting for me to kind of be like, you just kind of notice it. Like, I don't say anything. I'm just like, if you get a 3.0, like, you're doing it. But, like, so I think the standard thing and, like, what we let slide. I don't know how it was for you, but like, we're very lenient with, like, discipline issues.
I'll say, yo, I went to North, okay? I don't want to hear none of this, okay?
No, there was...
I'm like, but that's my territory.
I mean, there was, conservatively dozens of times when I was in school that I skipped class. And I never received any type of punishment for it, like I don't at home was like another deal, like I had convinced my mom that the attendance system was so fucked up that I was like getting counted wrong, because I would skip like fourth period or something. And I'm like, how am I going to be gone for fourth period, but I was there for third and fifth, when really I'm just skipping fourth period and then going back. And that would happen. Like, it was new enough at the time that you would get mistakes, So she was getting calls that was just like, oh, this is bullshit. Like, I don't even, whatever. But I was constantly leaving school fourth period, sixth period, and I never received any type of anything from the school itself. It was just, you have all these unexcused absences. Like, what's happening? And I'm like, I don't know.
They just don't take roll call anymore.
It just wasn't when I was in my senior year, I was doing running start, and I had one class. I took one class at Olympic to ensure that I could see my best friend every day. Like, I didn't need this credit. I was like, I would just want to make sure that I'm going to see Trent every day. And at a certain point, halfway through, I was not even doing any work because I had convinced myself that I didn't need it, so I was just going there literally just to socialize. And halfway through the quarter or the semester, whatever, it was Miss Shaw. It was business math. So it's the simplest math class you could take.
Business math was the best. Best.
That I still failed because I just wouldn't do the work because I wasn't like, this isn't what I'm here for. And so at a certain point halfway through, Miss Shaw's like, you literally can't pass this class. There's not enough work for you to make up for it to be done. And she's like trying to get after me, during class about like how I'm never doing work and all this stuff. And I said to her, I said, I'm literally not here for you. So I'm not going to do any work. So I'm not going to take any of these tests. I'm not here for you. So I'm only here to make sure that I can see my best friend. Yeah. And she's fine.
Honesty.
And that was it. Like, that was all that happened. There was no fucking go to the office, get the fuck out, like nothing. Fine. Whatever. And I was able to continue the rest of the year going to that class, and nothing happened. For why? Like, why am I able to behave that way? That doesn't, as a 25-year-old man now, I'm like, well, I was a real fucking dickhead when I was 17 years old. And so I don't understand why that was acceptable behavior. I'm one of the class sizes at least when we were in school, were like 30 kids apiece, enormous class size. So I'm sure that at that point, she's like, I just don't care. I just don't want to deal with this kid.
No,
I got so much other stuff to deal
Mhm.
with. And that may be the root of the problem, but I don't, it seems weird that, that was like
seems
acceptable,
to have worked out okay though.
because my mom there's so much behavioral stuff that my mom never found out about. Like, she was never called, she was never made aware. It's stuff that I'm telling her now that I was acting up in school. Why does my mom not know consistently that I'm acting up at school? You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't.
Well, let me ask you a question. Should your mom know?
Probably.
Okay.
She's a single parent. She's the only one at home, So, I mean, and if I'm being a shithead at school, the problems start at home, whether it's problems between me and my mom. I don't have a dad, so I'm dealing with those issues, whatever the deal is at the time for whatever kid, the issues rarely start at school. They generally start at home,
Oh yeah.
And so why should my mom not be made aware that I'm acting inappropriately consistently at school? That seems weird. That, like I said, that I don't think that standard exists. I would hope that standard doesn't exist other places, and I think it's weird that it exists anywhere.
Yeah.
But it doesn't set people up for success. Did you? I guess you were committed to like football and stuff. So, I mean, did you have a problem conforming to the behavioral standards when you got to West Point because of the lax standards at Olympic?
Ooh.
Yeah.
That was some consequences.
And would you draw those connections like from the lax standards to, I mean, because it's a military school, obviously, so there's going to be higher standards at a regular college, but you still knew what you were signing up for.
No, 100%. And it was something you had to get used to. I was tied to the football program, so I told myself whatever it takes to play on Saturday. When I went in, being on NCAA, the football game, was literally my crowning achievement as a kid. Like, that was literally the thing I wanted to do. So I tied myself to that, but it was drastically different. Like missing classes, like being late to class. Like at West Point, like you can get hemmed up in a lot of trouble just for being like the bell rings, you're not in your seats, like with your book open. Like, teachers will rip you apart, and it's like they're officers in the military. So, like, teachers at Olympic would be like, hey, like, don't do that anymore. Like, teachers at West Point will rip your fucking shit apart, like, in front of people, and they won't give a fuck. Like, they'll literally be like, what the fuck? And, like, again, it's not like talking to a teacher. He's in charge. Like, he's a major. So, like, if he tells me to do something, I don't do it. Like, I'm breaking UCMJ. Like, I can get in a lot of trouble. You can get hemmed up for it. So, it was a culture shock. Like, whenever I see people, like, I go back to West Point and I would see kids talk back to adults, and I literally would cringe because, like, in my heart, like, oh my God, like, that's the end of him. Like, because, like, at West Point, like, someone could literally walk in and be like, hey, Larry, I know you just got here. I need you to run over to Washington Hall, go up to the 10th floor, grab a bucket, and come down here, fill it up with water, and then fill everybody's water bottles up. And at a certain level, I have to do it, right? Unless I can really figure out why it's not there. And, like, people would be like, hey, get to classes. I'd be like, no, shut up. I'm like, oh my God, like, this is it for that kid. And so it was, I made it. It was definitely a culture shock. It was more of a culture shock coming back home and, like, seeing, like, because I love Mr. Huff, Mr. Peck. I go see him all the time. So I would go sit in their classrooms, and, like, I would just see kids, and I would be uneasy. Like, I'm just like, no one's coming for you. Like, it's going to be okay. So.
That's so wild, man.
You would have shit bricks if you would have come into one of my classrooms.
Yeah, I mean, but, like, also, I find it's weird. Do you ever feel like adults defer so much to teenagers? Like, I think we can agree. When we were 15 to 18, we were the height of our dumbness. Like,
oh yeah,
the height of everything.
I'd extend that out to like 25. Okay? I was officially not someone that, forgive the cancelable pun, but like a short bus kid, thinking wise, until I was past 25.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't actually understand most things until I was about 25, because you got to get out and experience the world for a while to be an adult. It's not just college. I mean, you have no concept of the real world. So you're just ignorant to the real world. You are the dumbest. You make the worst decisions. You say this 100%. And do the stupidest shit.
But you
during
think
those years.
Exactly. That's what makes it bad, because, like, you're dumb and you're like, but I know it all. And so, like, I've never gotten to, like, why we defer to kids. Like, it was like, well, we have to, we have to hear him or listen to him. I was like, he's probably the dumbest he's ever going to be today. Like, why am I going to listen to him? And so,
Go ahead.
No, I think that's what Olympic does. I feel like one of their weaknesses is they care so much about how kids feel, and I'm just like, they're wrong. Like they're wrong, and like if you talk to them in 10 years, they're like, yeah, I probably wasn't the smartest there.
I got a lot of kids in my family, and I just been around a lot of kids, you know,
Yeah.
and I have a son now who's 19 months old, and there are a lot of comparisons you can draw between a toddler and a 15-year-old of either side. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much any kid in high school. There's a lot of comparisons you can draw.
Yeah.
In that,
That's like terrifying.
Of course, I care what Dax feels. He can speak to a certain degree and uses a fair amount of sign language, so he can express himself in a pretty reasonable manner without just throwing a fit. You know what I'm saying? So we'll ask him how he feels. We'll talk to him. But at the end of the day, there's some shit that you have to do. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sorry that you're upset, and we'll tell him, you know what I'm saying? Smack shit, you break things, because kids in high school, they get upset, you know, they flip over desks, they get into fights, they do shit, right? Dax is the one he's slapping now, right? So gets mad. Jordan, okay, this is a great example. Jordan went to take him home. They came to visit me at work, and then she was taking him home, right? So go to put him in the car. Dax, you got to get in the car. So he screams, starts slapping the car, slapping the fucking car seat. I'm going to put him in the car seat, trying to slap me. Grab his hands. Listen, totally understand you're upset. We have a great time at Dad's work. There's lots of people here. They love seeing you. They give you treats. They got toys. It's a great time. You got to go home. I understand you're upset. You have to go home. You have to get in the seat. I have to go to work. You can't stay here all day. It doesn't work that way. Got to go home and take a nap. You know what I'm saying? Still pissed off. Fine. But you can't behave this way because you're upset. I will hold him to the same standard when he is 15 years old that I hold him to when he's 15 months old. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not doing that with your child, you end up with a kid who's 6'2", 220 pounds, mad and throwing shit, punching holes in the walls at his house because no one's telling his mom that he's acting up at school. You know what I'm saying?
A 5-year-old.
And that's the type of shit that my son, like I said, he's 3 feet tall. He's 30 pounds. He's for a child, he's huge. You know what I'm saying? He's going to be built just like I am. If you don't curtail that now, that's what you get when they're an adult, you know, when they're a young adult, you know.
100%.
There are many comparisons you can draw in the handling of those two situations, a teenager and a young toddler, and it sucks, and I'm sure that a 16-year-old would hate hearing that, but in my experience, I feel very comfortable drawing that comparison.
Well, I think it's funny. I would ask you, just out of pure curiosity, because I've heard you do, like Dax was getting all fussy and stuff when it's time to go to bed.
Yes.
When we were over there the other day, and it's like you do that thing where you speak to them. Just you're very calm, you're very clear, and very direct.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no way he actually, you know, he doesn't know the words and stuff yet. Like he can't, but like does his behavior actually change? Like when he slapped the car and doesn't want to go in the car.
In the car instance, it did not, because he was mad and he doesn't like being in the car anyway. But the time that you're talking about when you were over and I was putting him to bed, and when Jordan and I have talked about this, if he's upset about something, he seems to feel better if he feels like he has some type of choice. You know what I'm saying? So we'll do that. We'll speak to him very plainly. At that time, Colin was over. We're going to go over to my neighbor's house and work out. So Colin was over. I was putting Dax to bed, and then we're going to go over to my neighbor's house. And so
go to the murder garage.
Exactly. Go to the murder garage. Yes. And so, so I'm, putting Dax's diaper on all this shit, and he's kicking and all this stuff. And I'm trying to put diaper cream on him. It's a whole deal. And so I grabbed him and I looked him in the eyes and I made sure that he was looking at me. And I said, you have to stop. Right. So I have to put this on you, and then we're going to put your diaper on, and then we're going to put your pajamas on, and then we're going to read a book, and then we'll go to bed, And it's like, as long as he understands there's like a reason for these things to be happening, it seems to be easier, And so it's involvement in the process, just like an understanding. And that seems to be,
like, this is what I have to do right now. This is what you got to do right now. Let's do this so we can all keep going on.
Have you read Jordan Peterson's book, Larry?
Yeah, the 12 rules.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
my Bible.
So one of those rules is don't let your child be someone you don't like, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And I read that book before Dax was born, and so that's one of the ones that I took close, right? And I've thought about that obviously a lot since he's been born, you know. And now that he's older, he's more autonomous. He has more thought. He's doing more things independently. That's I think about it all the time, you know. And so I know, them. If I came across myself as a 17-year-old, I would really, really hate myself. And I would be really mad at my parents for not having adjusted my behavior, you know? I was one of those kids that literally would like aggress adults, like would like stare at adults across parking lots and like do shit like I swear to God, to God, it was a problem. Like I was a dickhead.
I always wondered about those ones.
It's horrible. Yeah. It's a terrible, terrible thing. And it's like, I was 20 years old, and Jordan and I were going somewhere, dressed all super fancy, and we were coming back, and we stopped at Jack in the Box to get some food, right? So we're staying in the Jack in the Box. The Jack in the Box in Bremerton across from Taco Bell, right?
Yeah,
right there.
That's my spot. Yeah, that's my spot.
So we're there. We're standing there, and I'm in like a button-up shirt and like a tie and a cardigan. Like I don't remember where the fuck we were, but we were dressed up, right? And then we're coming back and to go to my mom's house, eat some food, smoke some weed, right? And so at the Jack in the Box, and there's two kids sitting in one of the booths staring at me, bro, like mean mugging. And we're like the only people there. So I'm just like looking around, like waiting for food, like doing all this shit, right? And so we went to leave, got the food. These kids were doing the whole thing the whole time, staring, being weird, right? Same shit I was doing, same shit I was just talking about. And so we're in the car, we go to leave, and they start flipping us off through the windows of the restaurant, right? And there's for sure like 14, 15 years old, right? And so I was like, motherfuckers, right? And so Jordan made some joke about getting out and doing something about it, you know? And so I just parked the car and I got out, right? And these kids ran out of the restaurant. Like they were just waiting, right? So they came out of the restaurant and they're both standing there and they're like, what's your fucking problem? Fucking staring at people, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what is going on? Like, what the fuck is really happening here, right? Because I truly expected when I got out of the car that, like, this will end the situation. Like, they're like, oh, shit, this guy's going to come in. You're like, it's going to be done, right? So I'm then faced with, like, okay, I'm an adult. What do I do, right? How do I react as an adult? Because what the fuck do you do? What do you do?
Bunch of kids swarm you?
You can't strike a kid. You can't hit a 15-year-old kid. I'll go to fucking jail. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You can't. It's someone else's kid. It's can't like, this isn't the 60s. I can't handle someone else's kid and be like, now get the fuck home to your parents. Like, and
go tell them what I did.
Exactly. And so I just had to stop. I was like, if your biggest problem is someone staring at you and it's going to get you this upset, so you're just going to have a whole heap of problems when you become an adult. And he said something about me being dressed fancy, and we had the Land Rover at the time, and it was a gift from Jordan's dad. Yep. And so totally lucked into that vehicle. And he was, why don't you go get in your car that your daddy bought you? And I said, it's called a job, you dumb bitch. And then got in the car and we went to leave. So they're standing there flipping us off. Jordan rolled down the window. So make sure you call your parents to come get you when you're done. And that interaction haunted me for months. For months, I thought about it. Just like it didn't make me feel good the way that I handled it. But I'm like, I don't literally had no other options but to just walk away. Like you can't. You know what I'm saying? And I don't. So I think about it all the time because that's the type of kid that I was. And that's just unhealthy. Like that's unhealthy to have in your community, to have in your school, to have your kids hanging out with. Like I was unquestionably a bad influence because I was that type of kid. And those type of kids are doing the same type of terrible influencing that I was doing. I'm sure going to school with someone like Larry, like, hey, get high, get high, get high. Why aren't you smoking weed? You can play football, smoke weed. Did you run into just a whole heap of peer pressure when you were in school? Because Olympic is like the weed school, at least when I was going there. That's like all the stoners go to Olympic. Everybody at Olympic smokes pot. Like that's how it was when I went there. At least the teenage image of Olympic High School.
Yeah, I don't know if I ran into peer pressure. I think people knew just early that there was no room for it. Like it's just like, what did you do after school? I went right to the room because I was just like, I had to be the first one on the field because Jonathan Stewart, my favorite running back from Oregon, Oregon hat. Yeah,
absolutely.
Jonathan Stewart would be like, I was always the first one on the field. But so if Jonathan Stewart's on the first one on the field, I'm on. So I would walk fast to get to the locker room. I try to get up shots. So and then on weekends, I didn't like. So I think what you're doing for your kid's amazing, right? And this ties into the answer. I promise. I get kind of squirrely, but like,
No,
you're
take your
literally
time. I just fucking ran it for 10 minutes. Go ahead.
I literally like you're looking at your kid, you're assessing the behavior, you're like, hey, this is wrong, this is what right looks like. My mom was just dramatically amazing at that, except I'm convinced she works for the CIA. But like she would just tighten down the hatchet. So like I'm afraid of my mom today, right? So like my friends make fun of it. My mom's 5'1", she might be 125, 130 pounds, right? Literally, I'm a senior at West Point, right? Like I'm 5'10", 239 pounds, and my friends laugh because I'm just terrified. Like she could be like, "Hey, come here! I'm sprinting over there." We're sitting at my house. One of my good friends, she was just like, she looks at my friend like, "Hey, take out the trash," and he looks at me, and I literally look down away from him like, "I would take out the trash if I were you," because like I can't help you. So like she helped me out. Like she kept me on straight and narrow. Like it helps that I'm a super boring kid. My favorite thing to do is movies, so I didn't run into a lot of peer pressure. I don't think in high school anybody wanted to spend time with me because, again, would you want to spend time with a kid that only wanted to talk about lifting, video games, TV shows, or like lifting? Like those were really my big three things. So like, again, I got lucky. My mom helped me out. I have an aggressively boring personality. Like bless my wife. I mean, even she'll say sometimes like I don't do anything. I got lucky. I don't think anybody really wanted to hang out with me.
Yeah. That's so
Not
funny.
in high school.
That's so funny to hear. I got lucky. Nobody really wanted to hang out with me.
Yeah.
Well, that's good though, because it also teaches you like self-reliance and shit.
Right,
there's a lot to that.
How long have you been married, and when did you meet your wife?
I met my wife. Oh god, she's gonna get mad at me.
You don't have to answer
junior
that.
year at West Point. I met her junior year at West Point, so like 2013, and we got married. We've been married for a year, so we got married in May of 2019.
And how did you meet her? Was she going to West Point too?
No. She went to Claudio.
Really?
Yeah. I met her at home on Christmas.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
No. Super. Like she's a year younger than me. She went to Claudio. Her last name was Dixon.
Oh, someone said that to me. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
No, 100%. Like, so when we got married, like, there was no emotional moment to have to change her last name. She's like, she'll joke about it. She'll be like, when I was a kid, I always wondered what my last name would be after I got married. And in anticlimactic form, it's Dixon. So, we dated off and on for about 3 years. Then we got super serious in like 2016, 2017-ish. And then we got married in 2019. And now, she's been just in beautiful self has just followed me around on this this journey of the Army.
Right, because you live in New York, right?
So I lived in New York, and then I moved to Texas, and then Oklahoma, then Texas, and now I'm back in Oklahoma, and I'm going back to Texas here.
Oh wow!
So your Facebook says that you live in New York. That's why I thought when I was talking about time differences. That's why I'm not change your fucking Facebook because I don't give a shit. But that's why I said that when I said 3 hours when we were talking about time differences.
So in my defense for change, I think on my Facebook it still says I'm single. So just for the record, like I aggressively am bad at keeping. I'm the worst friend in the world because I don't keep up with people. I'm the I need low maintenance friends, so I don't update anything. My family, they'll be random times be like, "Why didn't you tell me about this?" My wife sometimes like I'll close a deal. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did this," and she's like, "Why didn't you tell me about this?" It's like it just didn't come up. Like I literally am always thinking about other things.
You are like my favorite person right now. I'm related to you on so many levels. This is so magical.
Yeah.
Okay, so taxes, right? Because this question's got to be asked. Yeah. What the fuck is up with that?
So again,
I get the maths. I understand that aspect of 100% at this point.
So I went to the prep school. So at West Point, you go to the prep school if you're dumb like me. So I went to the prep school for 1 year, then you go 4 years at West Point, right? At the prep school, the first time I ever earned a paycheck, because I didn't have a job working, because my mom was just like, well, if you play 3 sports, you don't have to work. And I was like, bet, easy. 3 sports in, work out.
Bet.
Yeah.
You're in the Army by the time they send you to prep school?
Yeah, so in the prep
wow.
school, you're considered a private, right? So like you were considered an E1. So I got a paycheck, which means for the first time ever, I had to do my own taxes. And this kid comes up to me, literally probably the shadiest thing ever. He was like, I can do your taxes for me. Just give me like $20 and we'll call it good. And I was just like, okay. And the first time I saw my tax return, I got $1,775 back. And in my mind, I was just like, yo, taxes, they just give you money. So then I became obsessed at West Point with like, okay, how do I get more money? Like you keep telling me I get money, but like, let's turn this 2,000 into 3,000, right? And then it was like, well, you could go to jail. I was like, well, let's do it legally then, right? And then so I just started researching, tax stuff, asking questions online. And then after I graduated West Point, I've always wanted to be self-employed business owner. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna start a business. I had like 29,000 failed ventures. But anytime you start a business, you're like, okay, what are the taxes surrounding this? And then one of my friends is asking me, and I'm explaining it to him. He said, dude, wow, you really know this stuff. I was like, yeah, I failed a lot. And then it came to tax time. He's like, listen, dude, I don't want to do this shit. Like, how much do I have to pay you for you to do this? And I was just like, of course I'll take your money. And then I was just like, give me $70. And he's like, okay, too easy. And I was just like, oh my God, I could have asked him for more. And then from that moment on, I was just like, okay, well, then I'm the tax guy. And then I just loved working about it. And I've noticed that people get abused because they don't understand taxes, but they need it done. And I've always wanted to bridge that gap. So now I get to make money. I spend a gross amount of time with math, and then I get to really help people where, like, for example, someone had a question on the stimulus. You would probably have to pay $20 to $100 for a meeting for 15 minutes to ask a question. And I'm just like, no, fuck that. Like, ask me the question. Like, slide in my DMs and ask the question. And like,
slide in my DMs.
Yeah, I'll get it answered. And so like, I've really enjoyed the process of helping, making money. And then like, again, I spend a gross amount of time just working with money, math, spreadsheets, which are a lot of my favorite things.
Well, you mentioned failed business ventures. What are some of the failed business ventures that you've gone after?
I wanted to be a videographer. I thought I was going to be a graphic designer. I blew $4,000 trying to be a graphic designer. I thought I was going to be a streamer. I was like, no, I'm going to be the #1 streamer in America. I thought I was going to be a weightlifting coach, an Instagram influencer. I thought I was going to be a weightlifting competitor. God, what else I do? I thought I was going to do lawn cutting. I thought I was going to draw. I thought I was going to be a YouTuber. And all these are like money. Like all these are like investments. Like if you walk around the house, like, Larry, why do you have a tablet, a camera, $1,000 weightlifting set, a $500 weightlifting set out, or $5,000 weightlifting set outside? You have 2 lawnmowers here. Like, why do you need to? Cause I was like in my head, I was like, I have this vision. I have super nice mics and lights, right? But I've streamed maybe 4 hours of my life. Like I bought it and I thought I was going to do it.
Why do I have all this? Because I'm hustling,
so awesome.
motherfucker. I'm trying to work right now.
I was just like, one of them has to hit. I tried to be a strength and conditioning coach. That didn't work. What else? I thought I was going to be a writer. That was the best one. But again, if you read my writing, you'd be like, there, you write at a 3rd grade level, maybe. Like, what the fuck can I write about? I thought I was going to be a podcaster. So yeah, a lot of things that, like, I say they're failed business ventures. I sunk a lot of money into figuring out what I wanted to do. There's a lot of schooling. Like I'm very down on school, and I'm very big on everything that you want to learn is online. So like I had a Photoshop like portfolio, and all of it, everyone's like, yo, Larry, this is good. Like, where are you at school? I was like, I'm on YouTube. And I was just like, I just do that. And like, even like finances, like I kind of know, but like all the tax stuff, like I just read. Like, got people like, oh, dude, like, what like, do you do this in school? But absolutely not. Like, I've just been reading. I read about it obsessively. Like, I obsessively read about it. Like, I'm just like, because again, that libertarian vein, I'm just like, okay, I'll pay your taxes, but I'm paying the absolute least that I have to, and everyone else around me is going to do the same. So, yeah, that's like the long way of like how I got here. And then now, I'm getting out of the military next October.
Right, because you're still active duty, right?
Yeah, I'm still active duty. This is my last year. We're going down to El Paso, Texas for that. And then I'll get out there. It's like a year-long process. So most of my time down there will be getting out. And then I'll go into this full-time. And then I've started to apply for other jobs. Basically like, hey, you can abuse me. I'm work really hard. I just want the knowledge and experience. Because like the biggest thing that's super frustrating for me is like, we've all seen it. Like, hey, you just graduated high school, you need 8 years of experience or 12 years of schooling. But
Yeah.
you're 21. What do you mean you're struggling to find a job? So like, I'm like, okay, well, I have to bridge the gap. So I just basically like, okay, well, I'll make my own experience. So a lot of the process, I've worked for super dirt cheap, super poor, or free, like just trying to be like, hey, like, please let me follow you around and let me do this so I can get like a portfolio or it's like pictures or stuff like that. So I've learned a lot of cool things about hustling. I've learned a lot of things about just like working for free, build a page, you know, things like that. But again, this is like the first thing that I've done that's really stuck.
So let me ask you this: why you're looking around for jobs and stuff like that? I mean, is one of the burdens to just essentially going into business for yourself, trying to find clients and shopping around and just doing like people's accounting and taxes and stuff? Do you need you need to become like a certified public accountant to do that type of thing? Is there some kind of legal hurdle, or is it just more you want to get the actual work experience?
Yeah. So there's like, so the CPA doesn't do much for you, right? It's like, it's one of my biggest things. It's like the hairdresser, right? Like, why does a hairdresser need a license to do their job, right? Because it makes my barber, if he can cut my hair, I don't care if he went to school. I really don't care. I don't care if he speaks English, right? I had a lot of Korean. We're in Korea. A lot of Koreans cut it. Anyways, so CPA.
Isn't that interesting? There's a lot of Filipinos around here too, but seems like a lot of Asian people cut hair. Like I think that's very interesting.
In Korea,
I think World War
just
II
an
and
observation.
Vietnam have a lot to do with that.
Yeah,
I think so.
I bet that plays at least a small role. In
That's
the
got it. I mean, they certainly were
really good at the high and tight over there, man.
There's a reason why there's a type of fucking ramen that you get in Japan that has canned corn in it.
Yeah,
because of the GI influence.
Yo,
so I'll point you all to the Anthony Bourdain episode where they explain all that later.
Yeah, please do. I was gonna say, like, enlighten me. I love top ramen, but yeah.
I mean, dinner night, sucko.
I fucking wish. I mean, a pancake. My wife just made it. Yeah. Sorry, the CPA. So the CPA, the CPA is to show a level, I say, of seriousness, but to show a level of validation, right? So it's that somebody else said that, like, hey, like, you have met the requirements to practice law. It's not the same thing as like being passing the bar as a lawyer, right? So the threshold to actually do taxes is actually very low, right? And so like that's what it makes it harder not having those, because people are like, well, like you just said it, like, I want a CPA. I'm not a CPA, right? Right now it looks like I'm just a dude hustling from his house doing taxes. But after talking and meeting, and it's made it harder to find clients because like people don't come out of the woodwork, but because I've done good work, because I've done outreach, because I try to solve people's problems for free, it's had people come to me and be clients. And then like when I get them, I just try to treat them right. So like whenever I do taxes for somebody, I make a screen share, right? Like breaking down all their taxes. Like, what does this line mean? Where did this number come from? And it's like things like that, like the smaller things. So people like, I actually get my taxes for the first time, as opposed to that kind of keep them come back and then refer.
Yeah.
So I'll eventually go get my CPA. I think I'm like 60-40 because it's really starting to change. Like a lot of people are just like, you kind of don't need it, honestly. Like a lot of people are getting anti-college right now, you know, and I've been on that bandwagon for a while.
Dude. Yes.
It's like, bro, I'm about to give you all my dollars I
never went to college.
Yes. Right. This is my first year ever having to do taxes as a small business owner. Yeah. And, luckily we had help this year from our accountant that we've had at the company for a long time, but this was his last year. He's retiring. Yeah. And just looking at it peripherally, I'm like, nah, I don't want any part of this. I'm going to pay somebody to do this for me. So you're going to be my guy, Larry.
Yo, absolutely. Come on in. We'll talk through it. We'll save some money. I'm a big fan of not paying taxes legally, always legally for the government listening legally.
Yeah. There you go. If you're talking to us, you're definitely being watched.
No, exactly.
We are shadow banned. They don't like what we're saying. We are on all of the lists. I swear to God. My wife convinced me a few weeks ago. I don't remember what we were talking about. Yeah. We were talking about just the stuff that Cole and I are talking about.
Epstein and trafficking is one that
And I asked her, I was like, are you prepared to be married to somebody who the government might want to kill for what he's saying? And she was like, well, if you don't think they're already listening, then you're stupid. And I was like, well, yeah, they're listening to everybody. And she was like, no. So I'm talking about the things that you and Colin are talking about all the time. So you're constantly doing live videos. She's like, it's really hard to take those down, you know? She's like, the things that you're buying on the internet, she's like, if you think that you're not being watched, like, that's stupid. You know, like, okay. Yeah.
100%. I loved TikTok, right? Like I was upset. Like,
Bro.
Trust me. Listen, I've done what I've needed to do. All right, I told myself from the habit. I got it. I was wrong. I've admitted I'm wrong. I told you I'm not always the smartest, but I love TikTok. Like when it first came out, it was my ADD brain was literally it was like snorting crack from my brain because like it was just like literally 1 minute clips of hilarity, knowledge, wrongness sometimes. Like it was just like it was everything you wanted, right? And there was just nothing. Anyways, like that's when I started learning about shadow banning. Like when people, like kids would be like, "Oh, I had 800,000 views and now I have 12." I'm just like, "All right, well." And so you guys were talking about it, and I was just like, "Oh, yeah, if they're shadow banned, like I believe because Facebook's one." Again, they've kind of exposed themselves, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm this super sleeper that found it out. But yeah, I knew going in, I was just like, "All right, this is it. I'm making my jump."
Welcome to the party. We try and advise people. I mean, we talk about it consistently enough that like if anyone listens to the show, then you probably have some understanding of at least because the last 6 months, it's been like particularly bad on Facebook and Instagram. We've had we've had people who've been unliked from us on Facebook and had to like resubscribe to our podcast and stuff. Like it's not even just things not showing up on feeds. Like they're literally being removed from people. Yeah. And it's a scary thing. But
it's weird shit.
We're happy to have you. The last weird question that I have, and then I think we should talk about school pods, is what is like the weirdest or sketchiest tax loophole that you know of?
Okay, so do you want the scariest loophole or do you want just my favorite one to utilize, right? Because there's different ones. Like this is the skeeviest shit I've ever seen in my life. Like this one pissed me off, right? And I don't like to pay taxes, right? So Jeff Bezos paid $0 in 2018. 2019 paid minimal, right? Like 126 billion or 26 million on billions of dollars in taxes. Everyone's like, how does he do it, right? And so imagine if you have two corporations, right? Corporation A, Corporation B. Now, when you have a corporation, you can change your tax calendar year, right? So imagine that one has to pay taxes in March and the other one has to pay taxes in June, right? Okay. So company A that has to pay taxes in March, they sell things, right? Corporation B that has to pay taxes in June, they have IP, right? Intellectual property.
Yeah.
What happens right before Corporation A has to pay taxes? Well, they go over to Corporation B and say, hey, we're going to buy license to your IP for $20 billion. And it looks like Corporation A made no money. That's how Jeff Bezos moves around a substantial amount of his income. He passes it around between the multiple different corporations of IP, and then when he needs it, pushes it back. And he also does a phenomenal thing. He doesn't hold a lot in cash. So he's notoriously known for not holding a lot of liquid cash. So those two things, so exercising the capital gains tax and then moving money around via intellectual property or marketing or donations is how he's able to stave off of his check, right? It's disgusting when you think about it. You're like, what is happening?
Oh God.
It's completely
hurt
legal.
you emotionally, man.
Oh my God.
It's completely legal.
Oh my God.
And you know what's funny is I don't necessarily disagree with that.
No.
I'm just like, well, I mean, it's legit.
Yeah.
And fuck paying taxes. I earn this money. Fuck off.
I've dealt with a lot of internal conflict
right?
with can I ask you, and it's okay if you don't have an answer for this, Larry, but a lot of people have been doing a lot of thinking since January, a lot of shifting in like personal views, political views, stuff like that. Have you found that there's one particular issue that you're battling with internally?
Yeah, a lot. So again, I'm a staunch capitalist. I love capitalism. I can't talk about it. I really love it. I think our social safety net, and I think the biggest one I've been battling with, and like again, it comes back to learning pods, is our schooling system, right? So like everybody, like I don't like how much money we're putting into it. And so like whenever something's that bad, I'm just like, doesn't need to happen, right? So that's a bad one. Like if we said, hey, like there's going to be no public school system, how much further does that set us behind? I don't know the answer to that. The second thing I've been battling is as we get into healthcare, I wonder the thing with America that's different than every other country is the size of our people, right? And so my thing is like, okay, well, if we do, could I in my head, I'm like, could I rationalize a medical healthcare of some sort while taxing fat people? And that's probably it's the crudest thing I've ever said in my life, right? Because like that one makes me cringe. But like those two topics are ones I'm looking at, right? Because like my friend, he's in Europe. He's been in Europe for a while. We have a lot of good discourse. He leans generally more liberal than I do generally, and I lean very much more conservative, especially with money. Fiscally, I'm probably the most uptight person ever. All right. But we agree on two things that's allowed for a great conversation is we both love America, right? We both think it can be great, and it is great, has been great. But like he's been really challenging me on healthcare and digging into it. Like how could we make healthcare either A, free for everyone or affordable, right? And I think I don't think we're having the right conversations around those. So like those have been ones, ideological changes, public school system, and then healthcare, where I've heard some ideas come out and they're not all bad, right?
Yeah. I even just last night had someone, my mom's friend, we're talking about the way that America handled the pandemic and stuff like that. And it was asking like, well, then why did all these other countries handle all this stuff so much easier, as far like as giving people money, having them not have to pay their bills, like having them not get kicked out of their houses. And I was just at, point like, I mean, we just don't win this one. Those other countries, like the example they used was Canada, like Canada does not have, and it's a good thing, right? But Canada doesn't have the partisan divide that exists in America. They don't have the harsh, crazy societal politics and issues that we have here that divided everything,
No,
I mean,
100%.
and it's,
they're rather ideologically homogenous.
Right. There are some times, and it's like we talked about earlier, when everybody needs to be taken care of at one time, where this country is not going to do it the best because our government's not designed for that, because there's
it's kind of like
too many people
to be the opposite.
Right. People have too much control for themselves here, and it should be that way. But when we're supposed to help everyone at one time, it just doesn't go quickly, but when you have less personal control, personal responsibility, and personal choice, it's easier for everyone to get something at one time because they already have ways to provide that. We didn't have a way to give everybody more money at one time. They're like, oh, the only way we know how to do it is taxes. It's here, through the way that you filed your taxes. Oh, you don't file taxes? Fill out this form, we'll figure it out. Like it's 100%. So we don't have a way to do that. We weren't designed that way. And you could argue again, that's not inherently a bad thing that they figured it out first, but I don't know that I would rather have that system over this one. You know what I'm saying? Because in this particular circumstance, it didn't work out in the best way. And I'm not trying to minimize it because thousands of people died. People are like, they lost their jobs. Like it's very real consequences, but that's not enough for me to be like, all right, fuck it. Let's go the other way then. Like this one didn't work. So let's just kick up the stakes and go for a more communist, centralized control country, like system.
The needs of the individual outweigh the needs of the masses.
Yeah. I'm willing to admit that the system is not perfect, but again, it's the best one that we got.
It's how you maximize individual liberty,
And that, I think that's the key. I think that's what we're kind of missing. I feel like we got crushed on this, right? Even though Sweden kind of did the same approach, that kind of stayed open.
Right.
We're always going to move slower whenever we need a nationalized collective in order to do something. Because again, we have individual thought, right? And everyone's just like, well, this is terrible. It's not worth it. Like America's horrible. And I'm just like, well, listen, this individual thought is the same reason why we lead all countries in medical patents, right? Like we literally have the best, whenever someone needs an advanced surgery top of the line, they come here, right? We lead them in cancer research patents, AIDS research patents, like all of them, right? So like we can't, what I feel like we do is we cherry pick when something goes wrong. Like this is something very bad, but again, there's just more that goes into this. Like, A, like, we don't agree on all the facts, and B, like, giving control to everyone is great when you need a very specific thing done, right? But if we agree that this is a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, I'm not going to build a system around the once-in-a-lifetime pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and that's always been my thing. So, because I've been getting a lot of pushback too, like, well, you guys aren't thinking like a collective. It's just like our inability to think like a collective that has led us to the discovery of great businesses, medical breakthroughs, like engineer, like product breakthroughs, technological breakthroughs. Like, we're still on the cutting edge of so many things because of the way that we're built around here. So, and it's tough, right? And it's just like, you could say anything, but again, people from other countries are working very hard to come to our top colleges, right? Which were supposed to be the pinnacle of our individual thought.
Yeah.
Well, and we've seen, I mean, that system just this year, or just in the last few years, seen that it like you were talking about, it works in specific ways. You know, in this particular instance, that system was great, but it's also the same system that allowed them to like ban all assault weapons in Canada just this year. You know, it was just 2 years ago or whatever, 3 years ago that they passed C-16 that Jordan Peterson was trying to fight. You know, it's that type of stuff would not go over overnight in America the same way that it did there, you know?
Nope.
And it's because of that individual freedom, that individual choice, that type of stuff, that you can't strip freedoms away when there's 320 million people or whatever we decided that are all holding individually those freedoms. You know what I'm saying? And it's, I would rather have that than that any day, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So unless you have another question, let's talk about school policy.
No, let's do school, because we start talking about education. Let's keep that train rolling.
Yeah.
Yo,
So
I'm a big fan.
the first exposure I had to the idea of school pods was, like many other uneducated Americans, through a meme, right? And it was something to the effect of like, you know, teachers, like, here's your time to secure the bag, you know, find X amount of students at X amount of dollars per head and teach them all in your house. And then that's this much money per year, which is this much more than you make all the time. Right. And at first I was like, that's really great, except for the parents who can't afford to pay that for a teacher to teach their kids in the meantime that they're not in school. You know what I'm saying? Because having a single parent, my mom would not have been able to afford even $500 a month to send me to school because we were doing online school publicly, you know, and that's why I went to public school. And as I did more research, I saw a lot of different examples across the country of school pods, and school pod kind of just being used as like an umbrella term, you know? And so the one that I found, and we could talk about more different ways, but the one that I found that I was personally most in favor of was talking about a group of parents splitting the cost of a tutor to help their kids doing online schooling. Like, they were going to do online school for like at least the first semester of the year. And so there was like 10 or 12 parents that had pulled together to hire a teacher's assistant or something to come into one person's house, bless you, and teach these kids while they were doing online schooling so they could still get like the in-person stuff. And so, at that point, when the cost is cut from $500 to $50, you know what I'm saying? Because you're doing it with 9 other parents, I got a way easier time getting on board. But like 100%. Things being cost prohibitive are usually my biggest concern, just because personally I don't come from money, and I'm not saying that either of you do, but that's just always like my first concern, you know? So,
and that being so important because education is so important to a child's development.
Very important. Yeah. And I have a cousin named Kaylin who is a teacher in Florida. Right. And I found out this week that they're doing regular schooling. Like, they're open right now. She has 20 children in her classroom. Yeah, they're open doing it. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? It's like, that just doesn't, I don't know. That just doesn't seem like the best way to go about that. When I have a child, I can tell you exactly how disgusting they are. That just doesn't seem like the best way to go about that. But I don't know. You know, I have no idea. So where are you at with school pods, Larry? Why was this the topic you wanted to bring up?
So I just thought it was interesting, and just to caveat off your Florida thing, like, I'm in Oklahoma, and like they're going to like they had a football scrimmage the other day. People in the stands, like we were driving home, and we looked over, and I was like, I thought they were practicing. I was like, oh my god, that's a scrimmage. So like here, like I don't know if it's built into the cake, but like they're going back to like they're firing up their lives as normal. The school pod thing came up I thought it was interesting. When this all kicked off and the Kagan stay-at-home school, one of my friends, I forgot who it was, it might have even been my friend Devin, regardless, he was like, the kids who have like two parents at home and went to college are actually going to come out way ahead of kids who like have, for your example, my example, of single parents who have to go to work every day. Like they can't teach us, they can't coach us. Like how many times it's staying at home? Let's be real, because I know the answer. If they're like, hey Larry, it's your job, it's incumbent upon you to wake up every day, get on a computer and sit through a 4, I'd be like, yo, this is never gonna happen. Like I'm out. Like I'm not sitting here. And so like how many kids don't have their parents at home 24/7 to watch them and then don't have the mental aptitude to teach them? Because he was talking to me. He was like, I was in advanced calculus. I even know they had advanced calculus. I thought calculus was. Anyways, he was in advanced calculus. Like my mom was never going to teach me advanced calculus if I wasn't in school. And then so I saw these teaching pods kind of develop in communities, kind of like you said, where the parents would cost fund, or what's it called? Cost pay, group their payments in the same way and bring in 1 to 2 tutors to teach a multitude of different things. And they're like, we can cover like, you know, the pre-K, but like they're like 11 to 14 is when like the kids learn, they shape the most, their habits grow the most. So then like we're going to like fill that gap there. And I was just like, oh my, like 2 things. Those kids are going to be ahead of everyone coming back because you didn't write or read for a year. Like it's not going to get better. And then 2, I think this is going to put a lot of pressure on public school because as I've gotten older, have been a proponent of school choice, and class vouchers. So I thought that this was an interesting way of that to come back, you know?
Yeah. And I think your point's very interesting. Like you said about us being home and our teachers or our parents teaching us, right? My mom's dyslexic. There's no way in fuck she could have taught me hardly anything that I was learning in high school. And it's not because she's not intelligent. She's extremely intelligent. She's just dyslexic. That's just not, that is not in her purview to teach somebody math that she does not understand, you know? And I love the idea of, like you were talking about, the group funding, you know, because in that type of personally organized scenario where like me and Larry and Colin, where we are paying for a tutor to come in, if I don't have $100, I got $50. You guys, as my friends, as other adults, as grown people, are way more likely to be like, that's fine, we got you. You know, that's, if you only got $50, then we'll help you cover it. Like, cause we want your kid to get ahead too. You don't want my kid to not succeed just because I don't have money, you know? And I'm going to say good 98% of people feel that way. There are very few. Jason Stapleton, you know, that guy that we used to listen to, that was like, if you don't have money, then fuck him, fuck your kid, you know? Like he was very 100% free market as far as schooling. And if I have more money than you, my kid should get a far superior education than yours. And if you don't have money, then all you should get is the bare minimum. And to a certain degree, I agree that if you have more money, you have more access to other things. But the simple fact that I don't have money does not mean that my kids should just be fucking stupid. You know?
It's not like you don't deserve it.
Right.
It's at that point.
Yeah. And so I like the idea of it like being a more personally organized thing, you know, where we're getting together as parents. Whoever has the biggest house, that's where the kids are showing up. And we'll take turns, you know, being there with their tutors to make sure everything's all in the up and up. And I don't think that that's a bad thing at all. You know, there are serious concerns I've seen from teachers, parents, scientists, you know, of how much worse, I don't know a good way to put this,
worse off
how much worse the kids learn when they're at home as opposed to being in school. You know, the education is just not anywhere near the same. And I saw one article, I don't remember what the state was, but there was 20% of kids who had not logged on a single time. They had 0 hours of online time at their school.
Exactly.
You can't. There's no way. There's no way to enforce that. You know, there is no way to enforce all of the kids being online for 6 hours a day. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
It can't be done, you know? And there's so many kids that in rural communities, I'm sure in Oklahoma, it happens all the time. There are kids that don't have internet, don't have high-speed internet, or in rural communities. Like how are you going to solve that issue? You know, that they need to then just drive in once a week to pick up a bunch of paper. Like that's not going to solve the issue. That's no better than online learning to learn through packets at home, you know? So
that learning it's a tough problem. And I like the concepts behind these different school pod things going on. because it is literally, you can't necessarily look at them as a whole because they're all so individualistically, organized.
Right.
And I think there's a huge I will rephrase that, a huge possible advantage to this system because you get to kind of pick and choose how you want, who the educator is going to be,
Right.
how their teaching style is, who they are as people, whatever the fuck. And that's a plus side in a lot of ways because you're not necessarily curtailed to this standardized testing education that people are getting nowadays. It's this generalized education system isn't necessarily that great to begin with because you're just mostly sending your kids to go to school to gain social skills and be able to like pass standardized testing to get out into the world.
Well, they're even doing away with standardized testing in like almost all of the states. They're like, we're just not doing it next year. Like
that's probably a good thing.
They did away with it federally this year. They're like, don't worry about it. Like they're going to be home, and next year a lot of them are already announcing like we're not doing it. You know. So you're telling me my education, your education, Larry's education hinged on our ability to pass the WASL, the HISP, whatever the fuck it was called at the time.
This was everything. It was everything.
And we're like, don't worry about it.
Because that is as arbitrary as it was.
Right.
It literally was, but we were so fucking stupid that's what we did.
Yeah,
because it was like it's a great no child left behind. Everybody's going to pass this fucking test. It's the stupidest fucking thing in the world.
No, 100%. And I've always wondered, we're throwing a lot of money, because I did a little bit of research, right? Like we're throwing a lot of money per capita. We spend less than only Norway, Austria, and Luxembourg on primary and secondary education, and we only spend less than Luxembourg on tertiary education, right? So my question is, if we are spending so much money, why are we statistically getting worse off in reading, writing, and all the primary basis of measure? So that's
why aren't we at least number 4 on all of those things if we're number 4 in spending? Why aren't we at least number 4? Yeah,
I'll tell you right now.
If it works how it should.
Public sector unions. Yeah. That is the problem.
Oh, yes.
Teachers are no longer held to account. Yeah. Go to town, Larry. Go ahead.
No. Everything you said, everything's red tape, right? So we create the institution around the thing we're trying to fix costs so much money. So for if a union person's soaking up money for a kid and I have the parent deem that I can't switch my kid out of the school because of my zip code, and B, there's no way for you to be held accountable because your union is going to stop that. How are we reinforcing the teacher being a great teacher? Because again, but at your jobs, Colin, you own your own business. If you don't perform, I guarantee you're going to lose some customers. And Don, I think at work, if you weren't doing your job, you'd be like, hey, we're going to have to cut you loose.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
If a surgeon messes up, we can sue the surgeon for malpractice on something we don't even understand. We just don't like the way it turned out. We can sue lawyers. I'm an accountant. I can get sued and kicked out. Even in the Army, there's a function that forces out. But in school, it becomes so hard. The threshold to remove a teacher is so high. And if I don't like the teacher, I can't move the school. And in the school, I have no say in how my kid gets interacted with. We're all 3 different individuals. We probably all learn differently, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know why we haven't reassessed. So I don't like the capitalist complete takeover, but I like the choice that comes with capitalism, and I like how we could have a say in it, right? The fact that I can't move my kid, we would go through red tape to move us into CK. We have to do different kind of paperwork instead of just being, okay, I want them to go there, right? And if the government can meet them somewhere there, like a voucher, and to provide money to hedge the costs, right? Instead of because again, the locality movement, we all pay local taxes. So instead of the local taxes going to a school based off of zip code and things like that, we'd be like, hey, I have this, I'm doing the research, and I guarantee we'd have multiple different kind of schools pop up. And be like, okay, well, I want him to go here, and I have a $900 voucher, which I guarantee you, if I'm running the school, I'm going to make that cover most of the costs. And then what you would see, I think, is smaller schools. And I think you would see schools pop up that concentrate on a certain thing, because again, we're going up in confidence and down in trades, right? So we're not doing the kind of trade stuff, right? Where if you look at people, we just had a big hailstorm, so we have a ton of roofers, right? The roofers actually changing the roofs. They're not people from America, right? There's been white people, there's been Asians, there's been Mexicans, black people. None of them has spoke English as a first language.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering why why aren't we getting these jobs, right? Why aren't we teaching these jobs, right? You know what I'm not always gonna need? My iPhone, and I won't always need my computer. But you know what I'm gonna need when it's 100 degrees outside? I'm gonna need some AC. So why don't we have more kids trying to go the HVAC route, right? Why are we waiting till after high school if it's not gonna matter if the kid shows an aptitude for HVAC when he's 15? And if we had more choice, then you could give a year and be like, hey, you see like this, you seem interested, go try it out for a year. You have the money, it's not a net loss for the parents, and we're accomplishing all these same goals. And it may not be the answer, but again, we've eliminated the ability to choose unless you have money, right? So then we have the haves and the have-nots. So that's frustrating.
Well, and as far as unions go, right, we've seen a lot of comparison in the last few months from the conservative community in particular, because the liberal community doesn't like to accept this, but a lot of comparison between like police unions and teachers unions, you know, like, well, if we're asking for more accountability in a police union, it very closely resembles this teachers union. Why are we not then asking for more, responsibility, accountability in the teachers union? Why are we allowing these same things to take place? Do we not value, and certainly not to belittle the issues that are within the police union, but do we not value the education of our children just as much as we value public safety? Because to me, it's about the same issue. You know, I'm just as concerned about how unsafe our community is as I am about how shitty the education was that I got when I went to the schools. You know, I might even be more concerned about how shitty the education was than how unsafe the community is in Kitsap County. You know,
arguably, the more educated the community, the more safe it is.
The less crime there's going to be. Yeah, and so
I think it's close.
Yeah. And so I think that's very interesting, you know, that it's very similar. If we have teachers that we are seeing are being consistently shitty, why are they allowed to stay just because they've been there for 20 years? You know, like, I know, well, it's only like 7 more years, just let them die out, you know, and then we'll like see what happens. That's not the right way to be approaching our children's education. If they're teaching an outdated style, a way that doesn't work, it doesn't convert to whatever they're going to do afterwards, you know,
100%.
that's not a healthy way to be teaching, you know. And to the point of the trade schools, we've talked about trade schools, I mean, dozens of times on this show. And just to get another perspective on it, do you remember, or was there in your experience a stigma around going to West Sound Tech, some type of trade school to learn 100%. A trade as opposed to going to Olympic and like a regular school?
It's one of my biggest regrets, honestly. Like, I don't know if there was a stigma. I had a stigma. I was just like again, nothing outwardly. I don't know if I had made anyone feel bad, right? Because I try not to be.
No.
I have my moments, but like definitely a stigma. So it was like, yeah, I go to West Sound Tech. I'd be like, what? Like that's not college. And now, like finishing college, realizing that like, I mean, I went to a great school, so is that like if I had a kid, like I won't force them, but I would 100% illuminate those ideas. I've had multiple soldiers go into trade schools and like they leave the army, go to trade schools, and like I love it. Like I can't fucking read. I hate math. Like why would I do that? Like all I do is work with my hands all day, and I'm just like, okay. So now I have soldiers that literally didn't go to college, but they have zero debt, went to trade school, and they're going to get out of school, right? No debt, making $18 to $24 an hour as their first job as a 20-year-old with no kids. Like, is that not a good start? So like if we're setting these kids, like, the problem is like, we don't have high-paying jobs, but we don't have high-paying skills, right? Like, and so if we're not going to bridge that gap or encourage the bridging of that gap or give a stigma, because like, I get disheartened when people are like, why would I want my kid to be a plumber? I'm just like, do you know how many millionaire plumbers there are out there just making money? Because again, everyone likes to make fun. Let your AC, you guys know, last week when it was 100 degrees, if your AC went out, would you have wanted to be in your house?
Right.
No. I spent time in the human rainforest instead.
Yeah, I forgot. You guys went back to Ecuador in the forest.
Exactly.
Well, and there's like, and I'm not shitting on anybody, you know, but it's like you said, like working at McDonald's and working at Safeway, that's not supposed to be a skill. Like you're not supposed to earn $15, $17 an hour. That you're not supposed to be earning a livable wage doing that. Like that's meant to be a first job, a transition job. Like you ideally, right, you'd only be in that job if whatever you lost your other job or like you need something for now, like I said, or you're young, like this is your first job. So it's not meant to be that way. You're not supposed to be living your whole life working at a job like that. You're
Not
supposed
that there's
to end up,
anything wrong with
Right, and
working
that's-
at McDonald's.
right, and that's I'm preface
But
with that just to be sure, because there isn't.
Yeah.
You know, there are many people who work through the ranks of doing that. You know, but
yeah.
you're also not meant to just work the register at McDonald's for your whole life.
No.
It's not made our country, because I can't say the world. Our country is not designed that way.
Yeah.
That's not how it's supposed to work.
I
you know?
think like those type of jobs are great for getting into the corporate environment.
Yes.
Because you start out
Yes.
working at the bottom, and then it's easy to get up into management. And
Yeah.
then once you're in the management, that is that you now have the corporate ladder that you can climb anywhere in the
if
world.
that's what you want to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
So it's not like it's a useless job. You know, there's a place for those people, and then it's also there to just if you need a gig for a while.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Right.
No.
And, yeah.
It has
think
its purpose for sure.
There's just a serious issue in value placed, you know. Like I said, even people who went in high school, you know, there were people that went to West Sound instead of going to Olympic High School, and even then it was like, oh, you like can't take a regular class, like what the fuck?
Yeah,
is that
100%.
about?
You're like, are you dumb? Like, again, it's silly. Again, we built this up, right? And I won't go into it because it's a longer thing, but like we've built up this thing that education is the future, right? But again,
Right.
it's just like if I told you pie is the best, you'd be like, well, what kind of pie is the best, right? We haven't asked what kind of education is the best for us, right? I love apple pie, and you guys can like different pies. Doesn't mean I'm wrong or you're wrong. It's just like different things work for us, right? But our inability to, and like I look at everybody, and this is probably one of the, I don't know if it's terrible. I look at everybody like an income statement, right? Everybody has an in and out, right?
Right.
Income, outgo. So we convince people that, oh, education can change your life. So we've convinced these kids to load themselves up on tons of debt, right? To where the average payment is almost the same amount as a mortgage, right? But if a kid is spending that money on a mortgage, he's building wealth and taking his family into a trajectory rather than other person just cutting down. So I tell kids all the time in college, in the Army, I'm like, hey, you don't go to college, right? Your level of living is way lower, so you can make more decisions. Kids can't go work at McDonald's and climb the ladder right now because we convinced them they had to go to college. So you're like, I have all this debt. Like, I can't afford to live on $10. I'm like, why? Well, why are we convincing these kids to go get debt? I tell kids all the time, don't buy a car. Did you know that millionaires generally they drive on average a 4-year-old car as opposed to a brand new car? So like slum it out, go live with your friends. But like, again, we haven't changed the conversation. We changed the conversation where if you live at home, you're a loser. Well, no, living at home is a great way to strategically save money, lower your cost of living. Like not buying a nice car is a great way to lower your month-to-month expenses. So then you can travel more, right? Like if you want to spend $2,000 on traveling, if the average person makes $15 an hour, like you could travel without any debt, theoretically 4 to 5 times a year. But again, what do? We incur debt, we incur things, and it all starts with education. Because
I think it's
go ahead.
I think it's shifted, that value you're talking about has shifted so much that I've even started to see rhetoric that's like, you don't make $15 an hour because of whatever. You make it because your, billionaire boss is taking advantage of you so that they can make all the money they want. And it's like, that's not, in some instances, yes. There are some corporations that are just trying to rape their employees because they don't give a fuck about you. My first job was at the call center across the street from Safeway. Right?
Oh yeah.
That company doesn't give a fuck about you. They are trying to rape you for as many calls as they can get and pay you as little as they can, right? But that same thing that people are talking about it's a box they're trying to fit over every job that works for some type of corporation, some type of something. Yeah. When if you tried to fit that over my job, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's not the case. I am in the most grandiose of terms, right? I am a
grandiose,
specifically and highly trained medical technician who makes customized neoprene orthotics for anybody ranging from the age of 1 day old to tens of years, decades old. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I have worked very hard for the last 5 years to build up the skills that I have to work for what I have. My company not paying me $40 an hour does not mean that they don't value the work that I've done. It doesn't mean they're trying to rate me for what I have. I don't make $40 an hour, but I also don't make $13 an hour. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like I make an appropriate amount of money for what I'm supposed to make, and my company actually took care of me during this time. You know, if you work for a shithole company that doesn't care about you, that's exactly how your job feels. If you choose, right? Because everybody has a choice in the place that they work. Larry has the choice to work for the Army, to be in the Army, right? He's choosing to not do that after next year. Colin, you worked with me. Now you partially own your own company. I have the choice. I choose to work for Bennick. You know, if you work for a company that chooses to not value you, you choose to not be valued. And it takes time. The first 3 jobs I have, the people didn't give a shit about me. You know, that's why I work here now. It takes time. Not every job is going to do that, but you have to find a job that sees the value in you and pays you accordingly, compensates you accordingly. Because as you know, there are all kinds of other stuff outside of pay that I get working at this job. That make it a great job. You know,
most jobs are like that in some fashion, and it's really easy. I mean, I'm gonna blank on his name now, but there's that crazy economics guy that's been on Rogan a few times recently. I want to say it's Peter something or other.
Oh, Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff. I love Peter Schiff.
Right. And he can kind of make that kind of same argument about like, well, you know, you just need to move. You need to go someplace that, you know, your work is valued at a certain area and all that. And that's not to say that like it's understandable when, like in the real world circumstances, like that may not exactly be possible for the situation you're at, right? But overall, I mean, we got to remember, we used to live in an age not that long ago where people would like relocate whole families for a job interview.
The other side of the country.
You know, I mean, like that doesn't necessarily exist anymore. People don't really do that, but it is, if you're looking for a very specific job that can take care of you in the manner that you think you should be taken care of, and your labor that you're going to output is going to be worth whatever you are being paid. Every job is a contract between somebody that's offering their labor and their time and their skills to a company who's willing to make money off the back of that. You work at a deal in between. That's called your wage. And so it's not to say that it's not difficult. A lot of times
it is,
but it is worth pursuing, because otherwise you fall into this realm of misery and chaos. And, you know, a lot of times you can end up, if you refuse to go where the money's at, you get left behind.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is sad to say, because it can tear families, like it's intergenerational families apart, but that's the kind of the true nature of where we're at now, at least.
Yeah.
But, how long have we been doing this, by the way? I just realized I looked at the time. It's like 4:50.
We're about at the end. I was just going to ask Larry if you had any thoughts on that.
For sure.
No,
I don't want to open up a brand new giant topic or something by accident.
No, and like just to caveat that, like everything said's right. Like I think there's a period of it being hard, right? That we have to go through to make it
absolutely
work. That's why I always tell kids, I'm just like, well, kids, my soldiers, I'm like, keep your cost of living lower because it allows you to do more, right? Because like that's the thing, like working a shitty job when you have a house payment, a car payment, student loan debt, free cell phones, right? Like, but when you have nothing, living off of $800 is just easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you can do that, you should always be working and then working to get to the next level. So like in everything I do, like I go to work, do my Army job, and when I get home, I work on my county job, right? Because I'm always trying to think of what's next. So I think that like you Colin said it, like he worked his normal job, then he saved up, made the right decision. Now he goes into his partial business. You said it, you worked 3 jobs you didn't like, and then you worked in your company and you've just been climbing the rung, right? And you guys are always working to improve your lifestyle, the peripherals, right? And I think that's where we're at. Like people, we kind of sold them this bad bill of goods, took on a ton of college debt, and now we're trying to blame other people for us. And I'm just like, well, no one made you go there. So I think we need to get more comfortable with that period of hard. And I think people that immigrants come to our country and they have internalized why it's hard. And that's why you see, even though Japanese people could not own property in 14 states from 1912 to 1952, their net worth is now almost higher than white people. Like, what was that about? Because they internalized the journey.
What was that about?
Because again, I hear so many excuses like, well, no one's ever had it like this. I'm just like, it's been some crazy shit. So.
Yeah, and I think you're right to a certain extent about being sold a bad bill of goods. Like a lot of when we were in high school, college was being sold almost to the point that's like, if you go and get a 4-year degree, you're going to be able to walk into a fucking job when you're done, you know? But
You
then
do whatever you want.
But then so many people had degrees that the company's like, we just don't give a shit anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And so to a certain, and we talked about a couple weeks ago, like blame, who was to blame, you know, for us like not being able to choose the right path, you know? And I think we just didn't see where it was going, you know? We should have, and we did not. We should have been able to predict what was going to be needed because of what we were saying at the time. And some people saw that. There are some people, like Larry said, millionaires that are plumbers, because 20 years ago, they were like, fuck all you guys going to college. I'm going to go dig in shit, and I'm going to make a lot of money doing it. You know,
100%.
My brother David just started being a plumber a year ago. They're living in a house now. You know what I'm saying? They were living in an apartment. He's living in a house now. So
100%.
He's living a great life doing things people don't want to do, you know? And it sucks. It does suck. I work 50 hours a week, which is not that much, but it's more than full time, you know? And I do that because I want to support my family. I want Jordan to be able to stay home with Dax and like help raise him, because I think that's the best foundation for him to grow, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So you make sacrifices for the things that you want. So I think because of that bad bill of goods, a lot of those kids, they don't want to work afterwards. They were told it was going to be easy, and now they don't want to work. They put the work, you know, we put the work in. I went to college. I did that stuff, and now I don't want to do that.
Where's my money? It's like, no, now you got to work.
Now you got to hustle. You have to work now. You know, that's what it is.
Jordan Peterson says all the time, perseverance is the highest indicator of success. Like, you just got to sit through and push. So I agree with everything you said. Like, everything, I love it. I love that vibe.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Do you have any closing thoughts, any questions, last comments, anything like that, Larry?
No, thanks for having me on the show. This was awesome. Hopefully we can do it again sometime. This was fucking amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Hard yes on that
You're
one.
definitely coming back on the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots left to be discussed. Thank you for coming. It was a fantastic show. Absolutely fantastic.
This was great.
We will tag you in all of the stuff when I post on Monday. It'll be about Monday afternoon. So it'll be like 4:30ish our time. So 6:30 your time.
Yeah, I'll catch it. Don't worry.
Yeah,
my family's ready to listen to it. So
perfect. Well, hopefully, I've been trying to really cut down the swearing in the last. When we first started, I was cussing up a storm. It was really bad. But I guess like some of your family's in the military, so they're probably pretty used to it.
I assure you, nothing that was said today is going to be the make or break.
Yeah. We try, and I had some like my grandma, you know, like I had my grandma listen to it, and she's like, I just don't understand why you're talking like that. Like, I wish that I could express to you why I needed to talk this way, but for a long time I was trying to normalize it. You know, I'm like, I want it to be okay. I want people to be like, well, he swears a lot, but it's got all this stuff to say, you know. And I'm like, it's just, I'll get there. We'll get here, and then I'll start swearing more, and then we'll be all right. So, but I think that's pretty much it. Do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say?
No, other than that, thanks again, Larry. This was fucking fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. We'll do it again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I am Donovan. This is Colin. This is Larry. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter, because I forgot to do this at the beginning. It's always hit or miss. Hit or miss whether or not I do the social medias at the beginning. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both those things. You can find all of our stuff on saltofthestreets.com, Salt of the Streets at YouTube, Salt of the Streets Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff. Larry, do you want to tag your social medias, or do you want me to just tag you in the stuff? That's up to you.
My Instagram's Larry the Tax Guy. Everything else,
Larry the Tax Guy.
We'll get there when we get there. That's the main one.
Jesus Christ. I watched you squat 635 3 times. Holy Lord, Larry. Oh, my God. I just started. I have to ask you this before we go, because I just started lifting when Corona happened. My neighbor across the street, John, the guy that we went to work out with, the Murder Garage. He's got a power rack and stuff like that. So we've been squatting and benching and stuff like that. What are your personal records for your lifting?
So I think squatting is the only one I've ever gone like crazy ham on. I did just over 700 in squat, and then I deadlifted 600. I did 605 for 7, and then I did 583 for an AMRAP of 17.
Oh my God!
And then benching, I can kind of touch. I've done 4 or 5 literally one time. I hate the bench. I have glass shoulders.
I was watching. You ever listen to Pardon My Take?
Yeah.
I was listening to one with Aaron Donald and DK Metcalf on there. And fucking Aaron Donald said that he benched 500 pounds. Yeah, the man bench press is 500 pounds.
Crush my chest. I think I'm actually scared of him. Honestly, I'm not sure.
I don't, bro. If I met him in person, I would be intimidated. Like I want to say hi to you, but also you might crush my hand if I try and shake yours because
No,
Jesus
live.
Christ. Well,
He's amazing.
that's given me some goals because I deadlifted like 375 a couple weeks ago, and I was pretty
There you
proud
go.
of that. That was
No, you should be. Listen, it's all just the journey. Like I don't tie numbers too much. I just lift often, lift with your friends. It's just fun. Do it all the time.
John is he was on here a couple weeks ago, John, and he's a great lifting partner. He is
about as motivational as you can possibly need.
His cup is never empty, bro. He's always got more, always more in the tank. Yeah. So
you
he'll
always need
just
those
keep
juice
pushing.
guys.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And he said himself, like he was born, he was a fat kid when he was young, now he's just all jacked up. So he's got all the motivation in the world to like, you can literally achieve anything,
Yeah.
Yeah. Working out with John and you're like, God, I can do it. It's good. Yeah. No, John's a good partner. So Larry the Tax Guy, Larry on Facebook, we were going to tag you in all these things. Oh, I got to pull up a line real quick. Yeah. I even looked at him. I don't know if you finished any of the shows, but at the end of all of the shows, there was a line pulled from a TV show, and whoever guesses what the TV show is, because I've been doing the same TV show for months now.
A while.
The first one was It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
and that went for like
it went over a year before someone finally guessed what it was, and they were all just random lines I had pulled from watching the show. And so I've picked a new show now, and no one's figured out yet. Whoever wins gets a T-shirt. Oh, I'm also going to get your address from you. I'll send you a T-shirt, whatever size you want. I'll send you one for your wife too. We'd love to send you one.
Sweet. Thank you.
I'll ship it out to you. Yeah. All right, I got it. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I ever?
I thought about this when all the people in Portland were, they're getting black bagged. They're getting hooded up, right? I'm used to being in the dark. I drank from a puddle when I was 7. I was blind for a week.
That's what happens when we grow up in Bremerton, I guess.